should be. Okay, I think we've got it figured out now. Let me double check this here. I believe that we're now live. We've been having some delightful OBS concerns lately. Yeah, evening there, yes, indeed, Ankit. Oh, goodness me. One of these days, these systems are going to work great.
OBS
okay, cool, we are live. Sweet. Okay. Hi there, everybody. Now, I hope they all just jumped into the evening there, yes, the minute mark or so to verify that we are in fact live. Huzzah! We're back to the set. That's right. So basically, we are going to be doing a long. One of these days, systems are going to work great. Okay, cool. We are live. Sweet. Okay. The audio. Hi there, everybody. So we have our Blackmagic Cinema Camera full frame 6K. Right now, this is rigged up with kind of a hodgepodge of stuff, but I'm going to break it down, and then we're going to freshly build this up. That's right. A bunch of tools to see. Basically, we are going to be doing the little things that can actually go. Great. Okay, cool. We are live. Sweet. The audio. Hi there, everybody. So we have our. I'm so used to standing in here and doing the scripted pre-recorded stuff for this particular room versus stuff, but I'm going to break it down and then we're going to freshly make it a little bit of my YouTube voice. Basically, we are going to be doing a couple of random ones that I actually go. Presentation, just chilling and chatting there. So we have our good stuff. I'm so used to, as you guys know, doing for those of you who've been pre-recording the previous streams, or check out the stream. But I'm going to break it down. These are pretty, make it a little bit of my YouTube voice hangs. We're just sort of doing a couple of random ones. So much repeat feedback about let's just fix that. The audio. How about now? My goodness. See, the tech demos sometimes just don't work like they're supposed to. Or tech demos, the tech scouts. Let me know when you can, Ankit, if I've got feedback still happening here or not. Okay. So no more. Now it's clean. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate the verification there. I'll have to adjust that when I re-upload this thing later. That way we don't end up with confused viewers being like, what the heck happened? So, all right, I'll even use my little, switch to my overhead. Check this out. Bam. We have multiple angles. We can do cool stuff here. Don't mind my recording SSD over here. Just getting a local recording of this thing. All right, so we're going to take this cage off. We're going to take off this battery plate. We're going to get just fully stripped down to the bone here before we really get into the weeds about how to build this thing out. Flashback video overload in a tragic scene. Yeah. Oh no. I know what you're talking about. Okay, that's so funny. I'm glad to hear it's clean now. I appreciate the verification, everybody. Normally I'm sitting with, headphones on, but today's a little bit of a different kind of setup, so we're doing demos. We're hanging out. No problem, Ankit. We'll be here doing our thing. As you can see, I've got a bunch of random spaces and junk. Since the last time I rigged this up, I have upgraded quite a bit of my rigging tools, so I won't need all this random hodgepodgey junk that's been holding this together. I have much better devices now. Also, just so everyone is aware, there is, most unfortunately, Condor Blue did not make a cage for this particular body. They did make one for the original Pocket 4K and the Pocket 6K Pro, and then this came out just before the Pixis. So Condor Blue, I think, just kind of jumped straight to making the Pixis cage, which is also awesome, and we'll do a future video on that. But basically, the fact that the Pocket, no, I guess it's not a Pocket, the 6K full frame Pocket style, not Pocket body, this thing doesn't actually have a cage by Condor Blue. So Though I do prefer Condor blue cages far and away. I've actually, I've been to the studio, I've helped them with some stuff, and I've had a chance to actually talk to, their developers and be involved. So I know what all goes into their development. So like, I'm a huge fan, obviously, of their stuff. But since they never made one for this cage, or for this body, we'll have to actually just use the SmallRig cage we have here. For those of you who are interested, if you are like gear heads and want to like acquire some stuff, there is a link in the description below to all the stuff we're going to be going over here today, so you can see exactly how I've got this thing rigged up for my various productions. And we are going to start with a pretty stripped down kind of handheld sort of universal rig before we get into, the nitty gritty and obviously jumping eventually into our DJI Ronin setup. So for right now, we're just breaking this down, spending some time together, and hanging out. And y'all are welcome to leave this on in the background, or pop into the comment section and ask stuff, or, swing back by whenever. Some people just sort of hang out during the streams and kind of leave me running while they're at work. Others will be active in the chat. And this is, of course, a long-form video that will be available to restream, review, rewatch anytime you want in the future. But yeah, I know that, for a lot of people, the full-frame 6K was a camera that didn't get, like, a ton of love for very long before, Blackmagic jumped into the Pixis body. So I figured it'd be nice to just do something from a fellow full-frame 6K OG body shooters. I'm going to take this lens filter off. Lens filter, lens adapter. Somewhere in here I have a box of sweet lens caps. I totally do. Switch to this cool overhead camera so you guys can, enjoy the camera body for 2 seconds while I grab something from the room here. But I am laved, so I can keep chatting with you guys while we're all hanging out. Nice. All right, cool. Can zoom this one in a little bit so you guys don't have to, spend so much time looking just at the laptop and stuff. All right. We are all stripped down. All right, so to start, we are straight camera body here, nothing attached. This is as small as it will ever be. And I am not a small camera operator. Just so you guys are aware, I am a 6'7" adult male, 2 meter man. So this thing in my hands is going to look much smaller than it will in most people. So basically, like, for this thing to be this big, it is bigger than the Pocket 4K body. It is bigger than, I think, even the Pocket 6K and 6K Pro bodies. So in terms of being a handheld rig, like, this is nice for large hands for sure. But in terms of this being like a super tiny action cam type of deal, that's definitely not going on. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Chilas. This is, yeah, I'm very proud of my little setup here where I can swap angles and things. And this is actually all hardware level too. I'll zoom out again so you can see. This is all being done with this device over here. That is a hardware level switcher. I also have OBS going, but my OBS on my laptop isn't nearly as set up as I have it on my desktop. So I'm definitely going to be doing a bit more manual broadcast style switching during this live stream. I know, immersion ruined, just like the studio aspect. It's just a guy in a room. I thought this was $1 billion studio setup. All right, so let's start with the simplest thing anyone can possibly do with a camera, which is to simply attach a base plate and go on their way. Now, Condor Blue does have these great base plates. Just Should probably switch to this so you guys can look at a cool camera in an empty frame. So there are a few options for base plates. I will show you a couple of ways that I like to go about doing this, just so that you know sort of where my head's at. Okay, so sorry that's super loud with the metal. So basically, the Manfrotto 501 PL plate is the most standard plate that you're going to find on fluid video heads for different tripods. So if you stick with the Manfrotto 501 PL, this will take you pretty much all the way up until you reach like the high-end Sackler video and O'Connor heads. The vast majority of projects, the 501 plate is like the standard unless you're using like an action camera, something tiny, or a super, super huge rig. So my 501 plates are slightly longer than the standard. Condor Blue does have a standard size 501 plate. However, I like the slightly longer ones because when you have the camera set up with a lens attached, it will, with the 501 plate that's extra long, it will stick out underneath the lens and stop the camera from like sliding down. So if you've ever done this thing, or not sliding down, I guess, like if you ever had a situation where you set your camera down and then like you put it down and the lens makes it go thump immediately, the 501 long plate will help sort of like avoid that problem. Heck yeah. Yeah, the audio. This is actually, I appreciate that feedback, Chief, for sure. This is a new mic that I'm testing out right now that I'll be doing like possibly a deeper dive on later. I just, on the video that I launched today, talking about the new autofocus firmware on this camera, it's all recorded with this mic. It's not quite as rich sounding as a proper boom setup, but my room is less treated now. So I'm picking up fewer reflections, more of just my voice without having to have as many sound panels and things up. So it does help a lot, but I'll be doing a whole demo on this guy at some point in the future, this little SmallRig audio kit, which for content creators, you'll appreciate knowing, has a little receiver that plugs right into your cell phone. So that'll be something I'll actually demo later. And I'll put a link as well in the thing below. Oh, that's so awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. Okay, so back to our overhead camera here. So one of the things I really like about specifically the KB system, I'm going to use KB a lot, by the way, it's shorthand for Condor Blue. They have these 501 riser plates with access to these rails and stuff, but this plate itself can actually come off of the top of this, and then it will be able to turn literally any tripod you have that may be a rear loading, where you like have to like thread the needle and slide it in like this to get this into here. But you can instead drop your camera in on top on one side and then just press it down and it will lock into place. So you can literally use the Condor Blue quick release plate for the 501 PL in order to turn literally any tripod, even like a cheap one that's like a rear loader only, into a side loading plate, which is super nice when you have something like rails or rods or something that hangs down below the plate. So like if you were to try to drop it into place and slide it in, you'd like hit your follow focus system or something. So being able to drop it in sideways and top load is so nice. So I've pretty much got all of my tripods now adapted to this so that I can use it as a side loader across the board. Also, I've just verified at this point that all of my 501 plates, even the third-party ones and the extra long ones by different brands, are all the same width, so they do all fit on this particular plate. So highly recommend. It's not like the least expensive solution around, but if you are working on professional sets, this is a really, really good unit to have to actually just like be able to quick release and not have to like take your wireless follow focus motor off because of the little screws that hit on a rear loading type of 501 plate. So actually, you know what? I'll just stay on the overhead after all. So in this instance, as I would normally just plug in or rather screw on the Manfrotto one, but actually, I'm just gonna stop jumbling words around here. Normally I would screw on the Condor Blue plate, but I do like the extra long version, so I'm gonna use this. And we're gonna grab one of our screws. So it's on the overhead too. So you guys haven't seen me wander off of the screen. It feels like I'm right there right now while I'm searching through nearby boxes for screws and things. Here we go. Y'all may appreciate this. A little bit of organization. The old tackle box, very full of all the screws and plates one might need. Let's go grab one of these guys. Bam. All right. And with that, we are going to connect. Now, what is nice about this camera body is it has two holes here for mounting threads, so that when you screw this on, for anyone who's ever worked with a like mirrorless body or something, something small that actually has only one screw, when you screw this on, it's not going to like swivel on you, and it won't like tilt around on top of your tripod. So if you actually screw in both of these, it is an anti-twist that's sort of built into how you have your camera set up. So we're gonna make sure we have both of these dropped in, line them up, and with our handy dandy Condor Blue multi-tool, we're going to screw this guy in. Oh, the screws over here. Okay. Again, we're basically intentionally offsetting this far, far forward. There's no reason for it to sit behind the camera where the lens is, because you're generally not going to have stuff back there, and all the weight is going to be in the front. So now even when you attach a lens, you don't have to deal with your camera falling forward. And I'll go grab a nice long lens that would normally add a bunch of weight, so you can see that in action. Also want to announce officially, everybody, I guess I should have said this at the top of the stream, but this is not a sponsored stream. You're actually watching me just tell you guys things that I like because I'm interested in doing this, and I want to be able to give back a little bit and, you know, just chat with folks and provide some value for my viewers. So I appreciate y'all being here and checking out the channel. And I do so many demos and things on this channel, I figured I may as well just do stuff live, because sometimes I just hang out with somebody and help them with their rig. And it is a lot smoother and faster to just hang out and chat. All right, here we go. So for our demo, we're going to bust out these nice, big, chunky anamorphics. Yeah, here we go. I'm going to risk it with 100mm. So, for example, this size lens would definitely cause this thing to fall. And I'm curious if it will with this particular length of foot, or if it's going to allow it to actually stand just fine. Oh, we're on the edge. See, this is where you need an even longer foot, which I actually think it may have. Let me see here. Let's see if this one's any longer. That one is a hair longer. Let's swap that out real quick. This is also why it's worth having multiple plates around, so you can do these swap outs anytime. Let's also get that focus on, shall we? Whoop. There we go. I will also be doing a video later on for anyone who's interested in basically stream settings and things, because I think I've got the compression and the codecs all figured out pretty well here to have nice sharp streams. And over the last few days, I've been streaming all week last week in 4K the entire time, and even though I was getting warnings from the system saying your data rate is too low, your bit rate is very low, it actually looked quite clean. So even when I pulled it up on the screen, it was pretty much popping in at super high def. Okay, so here we go. Slightly longer plate. And now our very long lens should attach without making the whole thing fall down. Huzzah! There you go. So as you can see, now we have our camera set up here with our extra long plate so that when you set it down, it doesn't immediately go boom and fall towards the ground with the lens, front element of the lens actually hitting. This way, if you do need to, while you're shooting, whatever you're shooting, if you want to just kind of set it down on something to get a shot where maybe you can't fit a tripod, or if you're in an area where they don't allow you to have tripods, you can always set your camera down on a flat surface and actually get a straight out shot. So the slightly longer, go back to the overhead cam, the slightly longer base plate where you basically just have a little bit of a, you know, a counter for how long the lens is. This is like a super important thing that I've pretty much done across all of my mirrorless bodies because they're so front heavy and it just drives me crazy when they fall lens first towards the ground. So this is obviously a bit of an extreme, you know, larger, longer example. You would need an even longer foot than this if you were using something like a 7200 2.8 or a big long sports lens, or if you had like a matte box, so on and so forth. But if we're getting into that level, obviously we're talking about a lot more than just like a handheld running gun rig. So this is the simplest it can possibly be, is just the camera with your tripod plate to go directly onto your tripod. Now, if you do this, you are relying on using an internal memory card. This only has CF Express, so if you haven't already invested in that, you'll have to do that. I do recommend using an external SSD, and you will have to use rely on the internal battery and keep that thing charged or have extra batteries in your pocket. So personally, given that this is a cinema camera and not just like a mirrorless, you know, photo video hybrid camera, I would definitely recommend doing a bit more than just this. However, if you wanted to be a little clandestine and still get really cinematic footage, I'll show you something you can do. Because obviously this system will work and the setup will be fine, but that lens may be a little bit on the noticeable and visible side. And while I don't necessarily recommend this entire kit that I'm about to attach one of the lenses from, because I will be doing a deep dive on this later, you can always throw something like this little tiny cutie anamorphic on here. So I did actually acquire the full set of the Sirui 1.6x anamorphics that are like the bigger, you know, blue flare kind of sci-fi looking ones, the higher contrast. I haven't done a full review on these just yet, and I still am working on my anamorphic video for everybody. But in the meantime, I also picked up the smaller version. So now we have this great tiny little rig that is not terribly cumbersome and doesn't look like too much more than you're just kind of out shooting, you know, whatever handheld, you know, personal photography. I mean, this looks like it might be like a 5D Mark III or something, right? So to the untrained eye, you could be running around shooting anamorphic 6K full frame cinematic footage with a rig as small as this, just totally handheld. So this would be like the absolute bare minimum stripped down guerrilla shooting mode where you're using something like the Sirui, which one of these? Oh, these are the Saturns. Using something like the Sirui Saturns. But I will say, before you run out and buy these Sirui Saturns, you'll want to stick around for sure and see when I do a video reviewing these properly. The 35 in particular has a very extreme pin cushioning effect on the outer edges of a full frame. So that really should have been listed as like a Super 35 lens, not a full frame lens. I haven't done extensive testing yet on the 35, or sorry, on the 50 and the 75 yet. But again, that will be a whole separate video later. But the whole point is, when it comes to the tiny rigs, this is kind of like, you know, I guess probably second to the FX3, right? One of the smallest things you're going to get in terms of a full frame cinema camera that will give you this access. Welcome back, Ankit. So good to see you. And let's see here, where to go from here. Okay, so now that we know how tiny this can be and that you can get some cool guerrilla shooting with this, let's go ahead and build this out with just like a basic cage setup and some sort of like universal ways of designing this so that you can like, you know, do more with it. So I'm gonna pop this lens back off. We're gonna put these away and we'll never speak of the anamorphics again. It's probably not true. I'm probably gonna pull these back out for some more demoing in a bit. And for right now, we're gonna get this camera back in this cage right after I safely and securely put my lenses away. Oh, you can see my shaky overhead camera. Oh no, immersion ruined. So I'm gonna pop this guy off of here, this bottom plate, which will go back onto the cage. And we're gonna slide this camera into the cage, and then I'll show you some nice universal setups. Oh, they discontinued the Venus set. I didn't know that. Well, glad I got in when I did. Yeah, I think that the Venuses already are impressing me more than the Saturns. Which one was that over there? That is the Saturns. Yeah, the Venus are the big ones. Definitely more impressed by the Venuses than the Saturns for sure. I was wondering if you guys just saw that. It's like a little bit of a little dust chunk on there. So I'm gonna show you. There you go. I'm actually gonna grab yet another super cool device that I love showing off, and you guys can tell me if it sounds terrible on the stream, because it does make a bit of noise, but it saves a ton of headache when it comes to dealing with dust and things, and not having to just use that like hand puffer thing all the time, and also obviously not risking canned air. I know a ton of ACs who use canned air. I see union guys constantly use canned air, but realistically, like the risk of spraying chemicals if you have the angle off or someone shakes it before they hand it to you, you definitely don't want to risk canned air. And the compressed stuff in there, it's like Freon basically, like chemically burning your sensor. So I have this very cool thing. And this guy basically is a battery-powered duster. I don't know how super horribly loud that is on the stream. I hope it's not terrible. It's a bit of a high-pitched noise in person. Dogs aren't super fond of it, but it is not much louder than an actual, burst of canned air going off. And it is so convenient to just charge it up on the go, and you can fly with it, which is very nice. So we're back here. Let's see, on key, what do you chat? Hello, Geo Elmar. Welcome to the stream. Thanks for popping into the chat and saying hi. Let's see here. Another Sirui homie. Heck yeah. Anki, you and I have like a lot of similar tastes in these things, which is really cool. All right, so we're popping this guy back on, finding where the heck our two threads are. If I even can. There we go. Let's get this guy nice and secure. All right, so we're in the cage. Oh, let's get our top screw in as well. Probably want to go ahead and have our top screw also nice and tight so we don't risk anything goofy happening in here. All right, so we're now in our cage. We can start attaching real accessories and doing real things with this camera setup. Ooh, this is like a cool thumbnail. So again, for those of you who are just chiming in now or tuning in now, we're using the SmallRig cage simply because my other preferred brand, which you might know is Condor Blue, and I'm not sponsored to say that, I just actually genuinely like their stuff. They never made a cage for this particular body, so we're stuck with something like SmallRig or other options. So I am going to add a NATO rail to the top of this because being able to have a top handle that can slide around is super awesome. And I'm also going to probably add a NATO rail to the right side where the data port memory card spot opens up. This one already has a NATO, which is cool. I don't know why they didn't just make this NATO because it's already so similar to NATO, but this isn't a video necessarily just here to critique the design and engineering of SmallRig. We are simply building up a camera. We're also going to need to be able to attach an external battery plate and ideally an on-camera microphone, because though there are some great lavaliers these days, it is nice to actually have a shotgun mic on the camera. So we're going to quickly run into the thing that I'm constantly on about, which is real estate limitations of these camera bodies and mirrorless setups. I know that a lot of people really prefer something tiny, 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 like a little FX3 body, or even like, you know, people really like the micro studio camera. But when it comes to even run and gun shooting, you know, bare minimum having a top handle so you can get low shots and medium shots and things, as well as having external batteries so you don't have to like swap batteries every, you know, 20, 30 minutes or whatever have you, and an on-camera microphone like a shotgun mic. Those things are, to me, kind of non-negotiable. Minimum for like a handheld run and gun rig so you can get a lot of shots in and not have a pocket full of batteries. So I will be at least showing that much, but as soon as we get into things like, you know, wireless follow focuses, obviously it's going to be a bit more complex, but we'll get there in a minute. So first off, to start, let's get a NATO rail on the top of this guy so that we can connect. Where did I put that thing? Enjoy the overhead camera while I find my NATO rails. Oh, here they are. So we're going to attach a NATO rail to this. We have returned with our lovely box of goodies. All right, so let's take this NATO rail. It's just a hair. Yeah, it's about the exact same width as this and has the safety pins. We like this one. Cool. So here's our little Condor blue NATO rail. Oh, interesting. See, this is what drives me. Just gonna take 2 seconds here. This is what drives me a little bit crazy about some of the other brands of how they do cages. This is a perfect example. This hole here is not really a threaded hole. I don't know why this happens. I don't know why they do this, but I just want to like get on my soapbox here for a second and talk about this. This hole appears to be what's supposed to actually mount to the top of the camera. These two are lined up correctly with the bottom. This hole is not lined up with the screw thread, which is why I had to put the screw thread into this secondary hole, which is not designed for this in particular. So now attaching a NATO rail, I don't have a center screw thread, a center mounting thread to actually attach my NATO rail. I have to do something a little crafty or use like a slightly wider NATO rail that has multiple mounting points. So the universal nature of the rigging has now changed a little bit. And I can't just use any old center mount NATO rail. I must find one of my longer ones, which is fine because I have them. But it does mean that we have to get a little bit more, I guess, crafty with what all we have access to. I do have an anti-twist box here. Let's see if I have a NATO rail the exact right length or if I have to use one of these third-party ones again, but this would explain why I had the third-party one that I had on the top there in the first place. All right, sticking with the third-party NATO rail that we had on earlier, which is, it's fine. It's fine. So, you know, it's a SmallRig cage. Not a, you know, not like trying to be that guy throwing shade on the live at different brands, but we'll just roll with what we've got access to for our live stream. All right, so switching back to our lovely overhead and adjusting our focus appropriately for this. All right, now we just got to find where we set that NATO rail a minute ago when we're actually taking things apart. So I could like watch the playback of my own video to see where I put things. Definitely feels like Pro G2. Yeah. I mean, I'm curious. Maybe it is. But it does. Oh, no, you're right. Oh my gosh, on key, you're totally right. you know what? I stand corrected. I'll totally eat my words. When I misspeak, I'll eat that. That's fine. This is designed for the 6K Pro, and we're using it on the 6K full frame. You know what? That's fair. I'll take that. So I'm not above admitting when I misspoke. So designed for the 6K Pro. Regardless of this, there should be a center mounting thread for where to actually place a top handle. Just putting that out there. But I do have, here we are. We do at least have this, which has an open slide in the middle, so we can place all of this. Yeah, the only one that came early with the cage. Yeah, it's true. That's true, Ankit. Also, oh, I see. Well, I'm gonna remove this. I have to ruin the immersion of this magic overhead camera that y'all can't see exactly how it's up there. All right. That's maybe we're a little zoomed in for the sake of shaky overhead camera action. Mid 49. Yeah, I'm when it comes to I will very specifically say, when it comes to mid 49 and wooden camera, no comment. But you will never see either of those on my rigs. So let's keep on moving. So we have our top, oh lordy, ha, that's so funny. Why do I have this? I'm literally going to adhere to that right now. I'll literally put any other thing on there. How did that even end up in my possession? That's hilarious. I can tell you all right now, I didn't buy that. That literally must have come as a part of another setup that is getting off my camera. I do not want, personally, any wooden camera stuff on my cameras. And if that means we have to use a super long NATO rail or some other oddly fitting thing, I will do it. Because I'm not representing that brand. Enjoy a lovely overhead camera shot of this rig while I find a different one. I'm afraid to clean the sensor. Why is that? It's okay to clean the sensor. I mean, you'll definitely want to get a sensor cleaning device if you don't have get a special wipe. But cleaning the sensor should be something that's relatively manageable. You'll get to hear me walk around this room. You can tell I'm walking too because the overhead camera keeps shaking, which is hilarious. This is a casual stream. We're hanging out. We're vibing. There we go. Ha! Not wooden camera. Much more fitting for all of the claims I'm making today. Very important. And now, you see if those fit. They do. Great. Okay, cool. Well then this is our setup. Extra long NATO rail for extra room and whatnot. Yeah, the wooden camera lore. That may be a members only stream day where we all hang out and talk about non-public things. But like I said, in no way, shape, or form am I making any claims about the quality of wooden camera or mid-49 equipment. In no way, shape, or form am I making any claims of any kind that should deter anyone else from making any purchasing decisions. I'm simply, as a personal, individual, unsponsored person, telling you guys that I don't use that equipment. So, with that being said, let's continue working with our extra long NATO rail now. And keep this party going. Let's also get our let's get our bottom plate figured out here. We definitely want our extra long. Oh, he'll get a kick out of this too. During my journey and my research on longer and longer, you know, PL plates from the standard length to slightly longer again, I went a little overboard and got this, like, I think it's a 350 millimeter plate, which is just ludicrously long. But it does do some cool things, like if you were to use a dovetail like this, you actually mount it to that, and then, as we said earlier with our side loader 501 plate, you can actually side load and snap in your dovetail. So it actually kind of speeds things up a bit depending on how your setup is designed. But we're obviously not using this monstrosity today. Just wanted that to be on screen so y'all could see how crazy it can get. Zacuto still exists? Wow, I also had forgotten about Zacuto. I remember everyone was very excited about their earlier phases of the like EVF and or like monitoring tools. And a friend of mine was like, look, it has onion layers. You can capture a still frame of your shot and have it be like lower opacity and put it over top of the next shot, which is honestly very nice for match framing. If you're doing like match cuts, being able to take a still frame from one clip and overlap it on another for match framing is super nice. I do kind of wish that was a standard on more of the like video monitors and stuff. At some point, I'll also be doing, just because, you know, this is just like the show and tell show. At some point, I'll be doing a video review or demo involving the PortKeys monitor. I'm an OG PortKeys guy back from the original BM7, when it was like some crazy, ridiculous thing to be able to get a 2000 nit monitor for around $500 at the time. And then now, I was an early tester and adopter of their BM5. Back when, here, I'll zoom in a bit for y'all. So the BM5 first gen, maybe this is the second gen. It does just say BM5 here though. But with, like, you can see this little mounting thread, I think here and here and here. This was back when they were like kind of beta testing as an external unit, the Bluetooth control before it was all built in. So this was part of the reason I never actually did like a full review on the BM5 or mentioned it that much to people, is because, like, one of the things I really love about the BM7 first gen, as well as all the Blackmagic monitors, is that it does real-time cross conversion from SDI to HDMI and back. So, like, if you plug in an SDI feed, you can take the SDI loop out, but you also can take the HDMI out. So it becomes a duplicator and cross conversion. Same thing with HDMI in. You can take the HDMI loop out and an SDI out. So you can, like, use it to basically signal chain split, which is super nice. However, the first gen BM5 only had SDI in and loop out, and then a single HDMI in. So there's no HDMI loop out, which was kind of frustrating. And it would work from HDMI to SDI for a cross conversion, but it wouldn't do anything more than that. So if you want to go SDI in, HDMI out, it wasn't an option. However, I am genuinely pumped because I just went to NAB, as some of you may have seen and met me at the show. And while I was there, I actually entered their little raffle at the PortKeys booth, and I freaking won this thing, which is super fun. So again, not sponsored. I actually just won this in a raffle. But the newest version of the BM5 does have SDI in and loop out, and has two HDMIs. So or not two ins, but has the HDMI and loop out. So this now finally has what I wanted for the 5-inch version to have, which is the same, you know, cross loop function as the BM7. And now that this is all built in, it's super nice. So this might actually get an entire video later on, but we shall see. Yeah, the built-in, yeah, actually on key, that I'll show that again. This is another very good point. A 7-inch monitor that comes with a V-mount is super rare. Even 10-inch monitors are mostly still NP batteries, which is kind of crazy to me because once you're at 2000 nits or even 1500 nits on a 10-inch or larger monitor, let alone some of these are 25, 28, 3000 nits brightness now, like you're gonna chew through so many NP batteries like super fast, even if you're using the F970s, which are like the super tall ones. So I've definitely started opting for monitors that will let you like attach a V-mount plate to, and that is the OG one. As far as I can tell, they've discontinued those forever ago now. I'm like holding on to the two I have forever. I kind of wish I had gotten a third one at the time, but you know, but here we are, 2020 hindsight. Always would have been nice to have even more of those at the time, so you can play with them more in the future. This is such a crazy wide. This is so funny. I'm totally not changing it back. I'm committed to the bit here. This NATO rail doesn't necessarily need to be quite this wide. You can definitely use a narrower NATO rail than this, but for the sake of, you know, sticking to my guns on brands, let's keep this guy on for now. So continuing our actual demo here. Oh, looks like my gray card is walking in the room right now. I think he wants some attention. You guys get to meet him. Finally, I know. Hello. Come here, little one. I got you. This is my gray card. Oh, thank you. Good job. His name is Fadark. He helps out a lot. I've been meaning to set this up and do a gag where I can actually hold him up and like white balance off of him on the screen. Yeah, you're doing a great job. Are you gonna settle in? Can I rig around a cat? That's the ultimate challenge video. Good job. Yeah, good job, buddy. He's so happy. He's the center of attention. Well, because you're cat people, because he's here now. He is a distinguished gentleman. That's very true. Yeah, you're doing great. You're doing such a good job. All right, so I'm not even gonna change this. Yeah, there you go. Perfection. Cat cam. Behold. So you take your camera, you mount it to your gray card, and from here you can do a lot of really great things. This should just be a demo. I should do a rigging a cat demo. You gotta place your lens mount anywhere you want. Make sure you get a daylight bright monitor. Yeah. So, yeah, you did a good job. So just a detour. The cool thing about live streaming, just so you guys know, is you can just kind of hang out and you can always edit it down later. So we can remove the cat part and make this a separate little piece for animal lovers. So I'm just gonna keep this going. So we're gonna make sure we get our base plate attached. Yeah, you're doing it, thank you. Yes, we're in lick mode now. Perfect, appreciate it. Yep, you're doing great. And this one is the farther away one. So I'm gonna make sure I clean your toes on stream. You're doing great, little dude. All right, there's one, and here's two. Hi, yes, I see you. I see you looking up at me. You caught my iron, little dude. It's totally not distracting. All right, come on, dude. Here we go. All right, so base plate attached. Once again, committed to the bit, you guys. I'm sticking to it. Y'all are going to tell me in the comments to get rid of him. Some commenters like, hold on, wait. Some commenter pops in and is like, I'm allergic to cats. Get him out of here. It's making me sneeze just watching this video. Oh my gosh, he's shedding so much. That's all right. Fortunately, I am the rental house, so I won't be charging me a fee for cleaning the animal fur off of this stuff. I know, I see you. Your eye contact is just intoxicating, little man. Oh, I'm off center. That's so funny. I use the that will be relevant later on, in fact, and I'll show you why I ended up a little bit off center here. This is a totally normal and healthy thing to happen. Just end up off center with your attachments. So Pepsi K, the reason for the BMCC6K over the Pixis is because one, I will be doing pixels later, for sure. And two, they're just, I mean, I feel like there kind of just isn't enough active support for BMCC6K owners. And a lot of people do still have this camera. I mean, when the autofocus first came out for this, for these like pre-beta firmware things, a lot of 6K full frame owners were like, thank goodness, finally something we get a little priority on our camera. And I think that hearing that and seeing that a lot in the sentiment in the comments, I definitely like feel that, being like, I made this investment in this particular piece of gear and I wish there was a little more support for my stuff. So I will also be doing a full Pixels breakdown video and full Pixels rigging as well. It'll be a pretty casual hang, as you can see here, so you can sort of tune in whenever. But also, my very good friend Ankit here, Ankit, don't go and get canceled now and make me regret saying that, but because the internet's crazy. But Ankit has been present on a lot of these, a lot of my videos and streams, and he has been very involved. So at the end of last week's streaming, I asked him which camera he's got, and he verified that he does in fact have the Cinema Camera 6K full frame. So I said, you know what? I will start next week with a rigging video and a rigging live stream for this particular camera. So a lot of answer for your very simple question, which doesn't necessarily need to be quite that long, but now you know in detail. My goodness, Cat, you're shedding. Buddy, you're doing a great job. Good boy. Okay, so I will show you this in the overhead here. So we have this mounting here. Focus on, there we go. So this here says for DJI RS2 and RSC2. Realistically, that's just center of gravity for pretty much any Ronin setup. So when we actually do our RS4 Pro build up towards the end of this stream, I will be using these mounting threads and actually sliding that thing over so that we're still centered in terms of the weight. But right now, I want to be centered under the lens because that's how the camera operation is going to work out when it comes to using a tripod or when it comes to hand holding. So let's go ahead and pop a couple of these on. In fact, I'm going to grab one other kind of screw thread here so that we're staying consistent across the board. Is this the right size? This totally is. I'll grab this one. And Keith says, it is such a strange camera to own, to be honest. I feel like I was going a bit nuts initially when I acquired it because people groaned when the camera body returned. That's so funny. Yeah. Oh, as in, are you saying, Ankit, groaned when the pocket body continued being the main camera body that they were making? Even though it's like not technically a pocket, right? They're calling this is just cinema camera full frame, even though it is a very pocket inspired camera body. I think a lot of people were hoping for a box camera. I don't mind it though. I really do like having, because I do a lot of, you know, guerrilla shooting and or like documentaries and stuff. So it is nice having a body that sort of looks like, you know, like a big mirrorless. I keep wanting to say DSLR because I'm, you know, 5D Mark III days. But something that looks like a big mirrorless camera is basically a nice body to have if you're trying to be a little more like clandestine, for sure. He's just gonna fall asleep here. I'm gonna like slide him slightly. Guys. All right. Yeah, it's just lower half cap. I'm just gonna rearrange you a little bit here. Good job. Okay, so we have our base plate on, we have our NATO rail, so now we can attach a top handle, which normally I would simply attach a Talon top handle, like so. And with this attached, right, you can hold this and do like your like lower angle shooting up, you know, if you're gonna be out shooting skateboard videos, which by the way, if you are here from my new autofocus update video, this is how I had that kind of, you know, I was doing some of this action, but for for the lower stuff, that like final shot of Brigitte, you know, slowly gliding away, and I was following her on my skateboard. I was like holding this by the top handle out in front of me and low. So that is honestly super nice to have. Plus, you know, to be able to get your hands away from the sides as you drop it into a top loader plate, as mentioned before. And it all starts to come together, starts to connect. Cat is moderating chat. He is. It's true. You're doing great. He's so confused. He's been moved and now he's like, wait, what's happening? He's the quietest purr. I wish I could like mic him and let you guys hear him, but is there a cage for the cat? I actually might I don't want to make one. I feel like I could. I mean, people do make these like cat like harnesses, you know. And I feel like I could probably attach like a cheese plate. Yeah, I know. I'm messing with you. I know. Is it bite time? I'll do it. So I could probably attach like a cheese plate to the cat and put something like a GoPro on him, which would be really funny for sure. I know, shaky tail. I know. Whoa. This is so funny. I love that this is just he's just up here now. If he falls asleep during this stream, I will know that I'm, you know, just speaking too quietly maybe. This is ASMR mode. This is about how trying to work at the desk functions as well. Normally I'm taking him off of my desk like 15 times and putting him on the ground before I end up just like kicking him out to do my stream, because he'll actually jump up and start pressing keys and things while I'm trying to work and talk to you guys. So, Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Cat. That's so good. That's BMCC. That's good. You know what? On Kate with the zingers, man. Gotta clear some of those stuff out. This cat is taking up so much space now. And I refuse to move him. We're committing to this bit. It's really funny. Okay, so top handle, base plate. Gotta have them. Kind of not really worth operating without it. Like I said, if you're stripping it down that much, we already had the example earlier without the cage. And you know, tilting monitors, nice to have with like those low shots. If you have a tilting monitor, then why not? Be just set up for it. So now let's get into adding things like our battery plate. That's gonna be super important. So for that, we're definitely adding a mini lock to the right side here, which will definitely help us stay pretty centered in terms of how the battery plate's gonna work. Let me grab my handy dandy tackle box of screws and things. Just another friendly thank you to everybody who's hanging out here today, checking out the stream. No way, man. Wordplay's great. I really like the concept that you know, like puns cause people to groan for sure. But if you speak multiple languages and you're able to make puns in multiple languages, and it means you really have a grasp of how those languages function. So like, I used to groan at puns until I became an adult and realized as an American, I'm totally spoiled and didn't have to learn a second language to interact with people around the world. So I now speak one language really well, a very small amount of German, and wish I knew more languages. And everyone else that I know that speaks multiple languages, I'm like super envious and impressed, let alone if someone can make a pun in English as their second language. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. But even so, Anki, your zingers aren't even like puns. They're nice. They're good. I like your style. For anyone who's not like monitoring the chat, they're just like, man, this dude's just like talking to somebody. All right, so this guy is here, and let's grab our super cool best ever battery plate, which I'm so excited to use. And I totally grabbed, and I'm totally very organized for you guys. We're gonna grab a battery plate. Here we are. which is also a very, very good power distribution hub. This is the Condor Blue Mini Pro V-mount plate. I don't know if it's mini. It's a Pro V-mount plate. They have Pro V-mount and Pro Gold mount. Anyone who is a broadcast and or union guy, you know how much battery plates can cost, even just like basic ones that attach straight to your camera and have like, you know, outputs and stuff, even just like a couple of D-tap outs. And the fact that this is, I'm just kind of like, again, not sponsored, literally just a fan. I was fortunate enough that when Condor Blue announced this and actually first released this was when I first did some work with them as a company, but I am presently not an employee. I'm just a fan of their stuff. So letting you guys know, this is not like a sponsorship shilling channel situation. I'm genuinely just pumped about this thing. And I feel like more people should know, especially broadcast and union guys, because for this to be an all metal plate that has lots of power outputs and the ability to switch it off with a master kill switch so you don't phantom drain your battery, for this thing to be like only a couple $100 is crazy. So you can have this instead of a separate power distribution depending on how many accessories you're attaching, and it just freaking works. So I'm gonna switch back to the overhead. I'm gonna take off the mounting thing here and we're gonna put it on a mini lock and attach it directly to our rig, which will be super nice. There is a 0% chance this is going to be simply a 1-hour stream I may end up on here for the majority of the workday at this rate. But again, this is why we're here. I just like doing this stuff. Ankit says, just read chat to you guys while we're hanging out. To be honest, English in a weird way is my native language because I learned it. Oh, interesting. Ankit learned English as his first language. That's awesome. Oh, okay. Pepsi K. Sorry, I never answered your question from earlier about the not continuing with the Pocket series. So that's a good question. I think that now I am an ambassador of Blackmagic, and so and a huge fan. So do understand that what I'm telling you here is like, this is not me. I don't know any inside information about this. I'm just going to be speculating as a fan and a shooter. But I think that Blackmagic hasn't necessarily discontinued the Pocket series. Why they didn't call this a Pocket, I'm not super sure. Instead of just like the 6K full frame Pocket, because it's not like not having neutral density filters made it not a Pocket, because the 4K and the OG 6K and the 6K G2 don't have built-in NDs. But it's not like any of the Pocket bodies were ever really cameras that could fit in your pocket, especially or even the original with a lens attached couldn't. So, you know, it is what it is. Don't go unplugging stuff. Okay. So anyway, I don't know that they discontinued. I just think that between, for all intents and purposes, this is a pocket body. Between a full frame 6K and the 6K Pro having neutral density filters built in, I feel like the pocket style bodies are pretty set to go. I'm not sure about the actual hardware and processing power inside of this, and I do know that when it comes to the Pixis, it does have that like same kind of fan system as how the Ursa Mini was, where like a lot of the inside of the body is like heat vent and, you know, like a heat dissipating stack with a fan that blows air through it. So I don't know if they can get the same cooling in here for something like a 12K sensor that they can get into the Pixis and the Ursa Cine bodies, but I do know that his body. I have a monitor down here, by the way, that I can see my overhead rig for when I'm doing stuff, and he sees my hands on that monitor. He's like batting at the screen. A play-by-play, but you can't quite see that in the wide. It's like just outside of here. So anyway. So yeah, I think that if they had another tool or another, I guess not tool, if they had another sensor, another like body type that they were releasing, I could see the Pockets being revisited personally. But I think that, you know, there was so much attention and desire for the box style body. And I think the Pixis has been probably super successful for them, in addition to like what the Ursa Cine 12K and 17K are now in terms of like what those cameras are capable, and the image quality is just like outlandish. And the refresh rates are awesome because you can't shoot 120 frames a second or more if your sensor doesn't refresh fast enough. So it does, the refresh rates on the sensors are fast enough that you really don't see the rolling shutter issue with those. So I don't know. I'd be curious to see if they do have another pocket style body come out in the future. But I mean, as of right now, I feel like the industry and the market, there's a lot of expectation of shooting 6K for 4K outputs, but I just don't know until like 8K is a standard. Maybe they'll revisit it with maybe like an 8K sensor for this. But again, I'm just speculating. Until 8K is a standard, I don't know that they would need to revisit the Pocket series. But yeah, for now. Oh yeah, the Nexus G1. That someone actually recently, I was talking to someone about this kind of recently on Keat. The Nexus G1 definitely, yeah, the Pixis might have been a response to the Nexus G1, but given how quickly the Pixis came out, I think after the Nexus G1, like picking up any amount of momentum or even the announcement, I still feel like the Pixis was probably in development before that happened, but hey, who knows? Maybe it is a response. Maybe because there was so much interest in the Nexus G1. I will say, from a development standpoint, the Nexus team definitely could have gotten that camera ready to ship and or like their Kickstarter done sooner. Because as soon as the Pixis was announced, especially at the price point it was, as a 6K full frame camera in a box body for like $3,000, I was like, oh, the Nexus project is probably not super jazzed about that, because a lot of people were in doubt. Like, well, yeah, why wait for that to be ready to ship when I can just get my Pixis now? So, all that being said, let's throw a mini lock plate on here. Onto this guy. So what we're gonna want to do is sort of brainstorm where we want the weight of our battery to be. I don't think we want it out here, because we're going to be plate's going to be attaching here. If we actually have a long, sorry, I don't know the my overhead camera for this. So if we're going to be using this to putting mini lock on, right? Then we're going to be putting this guy out here. And if we did want to put a longer battery on, it's going to hit the handle or be awkward. So, and if we put it on this way, that is also an option, but a longer battery is going to stick way out here. So probably want to have it like this or like this. And I'm going to go with, I'm going to go with forward. Oh no, wait, I kind of want easier access to these buttons. I'm going to put it this way. So I'm going to attach my mini lock here on the right side next to my cat and my assistant here. Oh, he's just passed now. He's done for. He's done for, y'all. Kitten is going down. We're about to have a fully asleep cat on stream. Pepsi K, how does someone become a Blackmagic ambassador? That is a great question. I feel like it's, I kind of feel like it's who you know. As far as I'm aware too, it's like I may be using the term a little. I don't know. They don't really. It's not the Blackmagic ambassador thing. As far as I'm aware, there's not like an official place to sign up for that. I may be corrected soon when I do a little Google searching or someone in the chat lets me know. But I actually, when I first started getting into Blackmagic stuff, I got in at the 2.5K. When the Ursa Mini was released or announced, I actually invented a product for it that was an SSD to CFast bridge, so people could use external SSDs to record internal RAW to an external SSD, which was basically the precursor for why there is now external USB-C direct SSD recording. And back then, the memory cards were super, super expensive. It was like $1,300 for a 64 gig, which would shoot like 3 minutes of footage at max resolution. So I kickstarted that product. That's how I got connected with the guys at Blackmagic. I was pretty open with my development with them. I shared a unit with them, you know, and I've kind of been in touch with those guys ever since then. So between being an owner of Blackmagic stuff, being an independent developer of external accessories, and basically like being pretty openly like a pro Blackmagic guy while building my company and doing a bunch of short films and stuff, I've just kind of like gotten deeper connected with some of the guys at the Blackmagic company. So I guess to become an ambassador is to like, I guess just be an ambassador, be a person who is like pro Blackmagic, very public about it, like helps educate other people. If there's something you can do to, you know, bring people up into the ecosystem and understand how to like use the equipment better, I think that that's obviously a major part of it, because yeah, it's not like we get like a badge that we can like iron on our shirt that's like, I'm a Blackmagic ambassador. You just become a guy who is known in the community. And obviously going to events like NAB, Cinegear, the IBC, I think it is, in I think Amsterdam, you know, go up to their booth and talk to them and share what you're up to and see if you can, you know, see if you can connect with the guys. But they are sort of hard to have like standard just like creator relations, because they're a huge company, and they're like, in terms of independent filmmakers, like I don't think anyone's not aware of Blackmagic, so they're not like, I think as a company, I'm just personally musing here because this is nothing official, but like as far as I can tell, as a company, they're not like hurting for exposure. So it really is just about like being a person who actually is like supporting the community and helping be a part of the whole process, and educating folks on how to do this stuff. So and obviously I had a bit of a leg up when I started, because I actually, keep scratching, everyone got to see your eyes for a second. It was nice. Yeah. Oh, good boy. But yeah, basically like I had a bit of a leg up in terms of getting connected to the guys and becoming an ambassador of the brand, because I invented a product that I sold 1,000 units of that thing. So I happen to know that Blackmagic sold 1,000 Ursa Minis they might not have otherwise sold to people who weren't going to buy CFast cards at the time. So I do think that probably helped me get kind of like my foot in the door. So yeah, I hope that helps answer your question without being too like vague. Let's see here. This is gonna go like this. So I'm gonna attach it like that. Cool. All right. So also, if you guys haven't used these before, highly recommend you take the time to learn about this. These are the anti-twist, also known as the locating pins. These little pins drop down into these little mounting holes here. And when I was working for a short time at the Condor Blue headquarters, I would very frequently walk people through how to actually set that up and use it, because a lot of people do not use those anti-twist threads when they're building out their rigs, and everybody should be using it, because it just, like, even before screwing this in, it already can't twist or rotate. And once you screw it in with those anti-twist pins in place, this feels like it's like it was manufactured attached to the thing. So anytime that you have a place where you can actually use those anti-twist locating pins, you should use them. I mean, across the board. It just makes the rig so much more solid and rigid, and ends up in a situation where you like aren't gonna basically be like retightening a screw over and over, because the handle starts to wobble over time, and the more you twist it, the more it kind of like loosens the screw. You will have way less screw loosening if you use that. And if something does become loose, see, now I've got I'm off center weight. If it does end up loosening, it won't just spin off completely, because those pins will stop it from spinning any more than like a tiny wiggle. So it's a safety mechanism, and it's a way to actually get a tighter lock. So highly recommend everybody please use these things. So here we have our handheld setup. We have our top plate with where we can place our battery. We have, and because it's on a bit of a riser, we now still have access to our function control buttons without this blocking our finger from getting in here to change whatever we have those programmed to. Buddy. Okay. Yeah, I know. So now, let's see here. What we got on key? Let's talk. Let's talk in the chat. Maybe something like that for tripod gimbal plates. Yeah, so camera moves slightly away from center. Oh, universal. I will say, I'm curious on Keith about the details of that, because I'd love to give you some pointers on tripod plate stuff. In case you weren't here earlier for it, I was talking as well about the this guy, which is currently under the cat. This is the 501 plate by Condor Blue, which has it's a side loader style instead of a like rear mounted plate. So if you have like this coupled unit, you can actually take this plate off. I think they also sell this plate by itself. But basically, attaching this plate to the top of any tripod lets you then turn that into a side loader, so that you don't ever have to deal with like something that's attached to the bottom of your camera, like an extra long lens or a big map box, like getting in the way. And you can just take your camera off the side and attach your camera on the side and not have it be a problem. So I don't know if that helps you at all with sort of what you're describing in terms of wanting something to make a universal way to move between things. But certainly when it comes to going between a tripod and a dolly and like even onto a crane and then onto a shoulder rig, and you could even do this on a gimbal too. I mean, you can put these quick release plates on all of those things, and then you can just like side load and then reload onto all those different devices. So you don't have to like leave everything screwed directly to your camera. You can actually kind of have this be the base unit, snap this into the bigger rig, and then like pop it out and go handheld again, which is part of what we're doing today. Oh, the anti-twist thing. I see. Most I can do is put 2 screws under the plate. Yeah, that's true. Yes. Okay, that is true. Yeah, when you've got these, and that is actually, I mean, that's what this. Here, I'll show you in the overhead. That's what this is supposed to be. Is a little anti-twist pin that like drops into a special place for that. But like, that is definitely not a standard, and like only video cameras of a certain era have that. But yeah, anytime you have 2 screw threads, that is the best anti-twist you're going to get in terms of having it actually not let your camera swivel on top of the plate. It's also why I'm a huge fan of plates that have multiple mounting points. Also, I cannot resist. I'm gonna take a picture of this. This is hilarious. Y'all will anyone who has access to my posts is gonna really appreciate some of those. There we go. Pop that on for everybody. If anybody is watching and wants to go to the little post section on my channel, I'm about to show you what I'm seeing from here, which is just a treat. It's a delightful situation. Make sure my overhead's not on, so I'm like doxing myself in my phone while you guys are watching. Posting pictures of this cat. That's how you know, real cat owner stuff. Just gonna call that Stream Assistant. Done. All right, there y'all go. You can enjoy. Take a look at this lazy lump. Okay, so when you are popping batteries onto this, first of all, we'll need a power cable. And fortunately, with our super cool plate here, we have 2 reversible D-tap ports. So if it's more convenient for the cable to go this way, you can plug it into those 2 and leave this pin open. And if it's more convenient for the cable to go this way, you can plug it into these 2 and leave the other pin open. So these are fully reversible plugs for whatever is your preferred method of managing, doing your cable management. I want to keep this side open because I want more, easy access to the power switch and my buttons. This side, I don't mind having the cable on it. And then I'm going to wrap it because I A little wrapping a cable. Take out some slack. Did I overwrap? I overwrapped. Too much wrapping. Too much wrapping, y'all. All right, so then pop our power in. Ooh, D2 lifter was here. It's actually a SmallRig one. Oh, nice. Heck yeah, thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing in the comments. D2 Ifter. That is a cool and unique username. All right, so we're powered. We have this going on here. We have a few options here. I will say, this is not a brand I recommend for the record. This is just a cheap old battery I've got from forever ago. I will be upgrading very soon to some Core SWXs that are like the tiny micro batteries. So I think I do have the Core batteries I would recommend in the comments below, or in the whatever in the description below. There's like a link to a bunch of stuff that's in this video. So I don't recommend this, though it's in the video. But if you are looking for small batteries, there's definitely one by Core that's like still quite affordable that is better than this guy. But thanks to the micro batteries and how small this plate is, we have a handheld rig that isn't too terribly large. We have power distribution and output. So if we now want to attach an external monitor or a wireless kit or anything, even something that takes USB-C power, this power plate has a distribution built into the actual plate itself. So there shouldn't be any issue in terms of like now getting additional power out to any other accessories that you attach to this. There might be some slight, oh, okay, now we're pressing keys. He's done it. He's getting kicked out now. Go ahead, buddy. Good job. You were good. So you could arguably get a slightly smaller plate than this, or just a V-mount, just the lock itself to attach to the rig somewhere. But when it comes to actually distributing power out to multiple accessories, you're going to want something that's either a separate power distribution block, which takes up way more space, or you're going to want a plate like this that has power distribution built into it. And part of why I really like this setup rather than having like a battery that has like a DC out and USB-C out and like other things directly attached to the battery, is because when this thing drains and I need to swap it, I don't have to unplug a bunch of things, take the battery off, put a new battery on, and replug a bunch of things. You leave everything plugged in to the distribution hub that is also the plate, and then you just pop the battery and put a new one on, and you're good to go. So those of us who know from working on set, it is super critical to be able to move very quickly, and we really don't want to be like, okay, hold on, I need to unplug and replug, and let me see if these things are still working. So definitely want to have like everything set up this way. Now, if you are running for an extremely long time, there is this crazy bananas battery that I recently discovered from, once again, Core. I am always looking for the, again, just sharing the things I like, I guess. I'm always looking for the biggest, chunkiest battery that I can get in terms of like, not just size, but actual capacity. This is literally the same size as the camera. It's amazing. But in terms of capacity, I'm always like, I always want to see the highest capacity battery I can get, while still trying to stay around the like $1 a watt range. It's kind of the sweet spot, I think, in terms of batteries. Like if you can get $1 a watt, cool. It's gonna cost $2 a watt, that's fine. Part of why I'm big on brands, and I don't personally use a lot of Anton Bauer stuff. I mean, I work with it on union sets. I work with a lot of ACs who have to deal with that stuff. Again, no shade to Anton Bauer here publicly on the stream, but like, I personally don't invest in that equipment, because when it comes to just like the raw specs of what the batteries do, I think that there are better deals out there. This particular battery at 360 watts, 360 watt hours is literally like a $400 battery. So it's right there at that cusp of like $1 a watt. But the craziest thing about this one is that it claims on their website that this can do up to a 24 amp draw, which is so insane. You could literally use this to power like 120 volt wall outlet. So like, if you were in a situation where the size of this rig and the weight of it wasn't an issue, like if you're attached to a tripod or a dolly all day and you are using this particular setup rather than something like an Ursa Mini or a Pixis or whatever have you, this thing on a basically 36 watt camera will last for 10 hours. And you attach a ton of accessories to this as well, you're pretty much gonna only swap this thing at lunch. So when you have a single battery that can go on your camera, and yes, this is massive. This is a ridiculous, totally insane setup that one might do. But in terms of not having to swap out your batteries or have any downtime throughout the day, the thought of being able to put one battery on at the top of the day, and then at lunch, 6 hours in, you take it off, and at the end of lunch, you put a fresh one on, and you've effectively never swapped batteries the entire day. That is a crazy, crazy, wonderful experience that every time I've done that, producers and directors have been like, dude, you've never swapped this battery. And they'll even ask like a few takes in, like, should we do a battery swap? Because they're used to people having like 60 to people having like 60 to 90 watt hour batteries, especially if they're on like a shark fin type thing where they're like every few takes, I mean, it really just feels like every 30 minutes to an hour, they're like, battery swap, battery swap, battery swap. Okay, get the lighting in place. Okay, the lighting's good. Okay, wait, battery swap before we hit record. And I'm just like, it drives me crazy on set when people are swapping batteries because they're using 60 to 90 watt hour batteries and they're swapping them that often versus, again, just having one giant battery that lasts you until lunch. And even on a big camera, you maybe with like a lot of accessories on something like an Ursa Mini, a Pixis, Ursa Cine 12K, maybe you're like in slow, it might take a ton of juice. But basically, you might swap once before lunch. The lunch swap no one feels, and then one swap again halfway through the latter half of the day. So to have a camera like a big camera that you're only doing basically what feels like 2 swaps the whole day, that is a extremely cool experience. So if you can deal with the weight, a huge battery like that, game changer. I'm a huge believer and firm supporter of the extra long-lasting giant batteries. Yeah. Anki says, yeah, his Swit 220 is very much like that as well. Also, just like the Apex, quite heavy. So it is a weight concern. Again, at my size and height, as a 6'7" guy, that weight isn't a big deal to me. These things don't feel heavy or large to me. But if you are not a awkward, gangly giant like I am, you may want a lighter rig. So not for everyone, the giant battery. But I do recommend trying it out. Definitely worth checking it out. Okay, so we have power, we have top handle, and we now would like data. However, because these memory card standards have changed so many times, SD to CF Express to CFast to, SD to Compact Flash to CFast to CF Express, and heaven forbid you get the wrong one, CF Express Type A or Type B for your camera. I'm not crazy about chasing different memory card standards over the years and over time. I prefer to just stick to like the external SSD. I've been rocking that ever since my Addix E2S product that I made for the Ursa Mini. So like basically the fact that we can do external USB-C recording is such a game changer and I love it so much. So I will show you how I would set that up. Right now we have this lovely cold shoe here, and I have a mini lock rigged up to a cold shoe. So we will attach that here. And now we have ourselves a fresh mounting point, and we'll attach to that an SSD holder with a mini lock as well. And the reason I'm using mini locks, by the way, again, across the board here, if I can't attach it directly, that is one option. But the beauty of the mini locks is without any additional tools, when you need to pack this down to go into a camera rig or go into a camera bag or go flying, you just pop the mini locks and you can take all the accessories off of this camera. Obviously, NATO rail is a little bit different, but you can be broken down that fast without having to like bust out your little like wrench and like get in there and unscrew things, or use your multi-tool to like get things taken apart. So major fan of mini locking, literally whatever you can. I always say mini lock your life, and the guys at KB always chuckle at me when I say that, and they'll often be like, mini lock in, bro. So if you're watching this, Steven, mini lock in, that's for you. Everyone else, mini lock your life. So we have our SSD holder, and now I'm going to go and find an SSD. Here we go. We're still in the overheads here. Oh, you totally forgot about the, yeah, oh my gosh, on key, absolutely. Well, the thing you forgot about is the mini locks, or the thing you forgot about is the external SSD recorder and or SSD clamp. Definitely glad to help. I might wander out of range of the mic here. There's a SSD I want to show for sure. Gasp! I know where it is. We will be. I'm gonna do a fun little thing here, so you guys are fully aware that I'm actually taking 2 seconds away from the setup, so you guys don't think I've abandoned you, because I've never abandoned you guys. An overhead camera that doesn't have anything going on doesn't mean that I'm not really here. But I will say, because I have my OBS setup for the other room has a bunch of nice like presets on that computer that I didn't manage to get moved over here for today. So you get the Post-it note version. Oh, the EVSF extension, right. Yeah, I have the little EVF thing for the BMCC. I never use it though. I just really like the onboard monitor just being super bright. To me, that's like, that's awesome. Bam. All right, killing the audio for just a moment. I'll be back. And we're back. So for our external SSD today, we've got this lovely little SanDisk number. For those of you who remember the T5 SSDs from Samsung, those have been discontinued, and we're all looking for the next SSD that's going to work out well as the external thing. So this thing, which is the 2nd gen of SanDisk's portable 1 terabyte SSD. If you're using an external clamp like this, the rubberized side actually really help it hold in really nicely without being too awkward. and make sure we're still giving ourselves room for a hand, which we are. Tighten that down. Pop our USB-C cable into our USB-C port. Maybe give this one lap around the other cable and then pop it in here. And now we're good to go. So just like that, we have a handheld rig that's starting to really come together. We've got top handle for all sorts of angles of shots. We have power plate for various size batteries, a little bit of extra room here. So if you have a longer battery that goes long, it'll stick out in the same direction as the lens and it won't fall awkwardly to the side or interfere with the handle. We have a external SSD, so you don't have to deal with acquiring even more memory cards you may not have yet invested in. And of course, we have our base plate, which helps keep the weight centered underneath where the actual lens is. So while we're out and running and gunning and shooting, this is a pretty decent sort of minimalist setup. I'm gonna go ahead and pop a lens on here so you guys can see. Once you actually have a lens on here, this issue of the battery causing it to fall to the side largely goes away because you actually have a little extra weight in the front, which is nice. So once again, just for the sake of showing a nice big lens that we're working with here, we're gonna use our anamorphic once more. And with that weight, look at that. Now it, oh, yeah, I spoke too soon. Oh, goodness me, see? Okay, cool. So we're right on the edge in terms of whether or not this thing is gonna try to fall to the side of where this battery is. If you needed to, you could always mount this using the other mounting point a little closer to the center. And with a nice NATO rail, you can always slide the handle over to compensate for moving this further this way. So we do have a few options in terms of how this gets rigged up. But even as of right now, with a 100 watt-hour battery or so, and a nice 1 terabyte SSD, we can now take this out. Now, this isn't exactly the same clandestine setup we had earlier, but this is a run and gun cinema rig with a anamorphic lens on a full frame sensor, external battery, so you can run for well over an hour, possibly even 2, and a terabyte SSD, so you can shoot your 6K raw footage and not worry about being like, oh no, I have to pop memory cards constantly. So this is definitely kind of my favorite base build, though there is one extra step, because now if we wanted to attach something like, say, a top monitor, we could attach it to the handle here if that was important to us, though on this particular body with the screen that flips out, we might not need a top monitor, which is very nice. And if I wanted to attach a microphone to this, like an external shotgun mic, we're basically now looking at attaching it to the top handle because we're sort of out of places to attach stuff, unless I maybe attach to our side NATO rail here, then it's gonna stick out like so, or it's gonna stick out super high off the top. It starts to get kind of awkward. So I will show you how I prefer to do this right now. So because we need a top handle anyway, as is my firm belief, we can completely remove and replace our Talon handle with the handy dandy USB-C recording SSD top handle, which also takes a different kind of SanDisk SSD, the ProBlade, which right now I have a 2 terabyte here one though. But yes, this is the SanDisk ProBlade SSD, which slides directly into your top handle. So then you combine two things at once. So now you don't need any of this side loading. Here we go. There you go. Now you don't need this external SSD over here. It is kind of an internal external SSD that actually goes directly into your top handle now. And you simply snake around your USB-C cable, and here we have an even more neat and tight little rig with our SSD top handle. And this allows us to attach a microphone, which I'll run and grab right now. Heck yeah, Ankit. Yes, I'm so glad you love this SSD too. This SSD is crazy fast. I will be doing another video as well, showing some data management tests. I have attached this and a bunch of other different kinds of SSDs to my Ursa Mini 12K, which can kick out 8K 120 frames a second, like BRAW 5:1, which I think is the single largest data rate it will kick out. Because even in 12K, it only does up to 40 or so frames a second, 36 or 40. So 12K 40 / 12K 36 is not more data than 8K 120. So that is like the perfect camera for testing and just really seeing if you can bog down an SSD. And these ProBlade SSDs are some of the only, I mean, in terms of what I've tested, it's the only one that actually can handle the like outlandish giant full data rate of what the Ursa Mini 12K can kick out. It's even faster than internal CFast cards. You put in a CFast card like a Lexar 3500Xs, and those will drop frames depending on your record settings. But the external USB-C ProBlade SSDs can actually take that data rate, which is just bonkers that it can handle that. So definitely recommend for anyone that wants, you know, extended options for where they would actually place or like what kind of record things that they want access to. That's definitely the move. I'm also away from the setup again here, guys, because I'm grabbing some microphones to show you some more mounting options. Because I want to be thorough. I want to be thorough today. You guys lots and lots of choices. Let no one claim I did not show you a great many options. So option number one, we're going to use our mini lock plate here, and we're going to spin around the way this guy's attached. And we're going to put on one of my favorite little run and gun documentary shotgun mics. If I can pop this loose, there we go. The Rode VideoMic Pro Plus. There are a great many options in terms of mics that have sort of like a built-in power situation. Just so you know, there are little itty-bitty tiny mics, like this little tiny Audio Technica number that can go straight into our cold shoe mount here. But this is like a little unnecessarily tiny given how big this rig is. This is definitely more of like a mirrorless body. If you had something like, I have it right here, in fact, because I'm doing a different demo. If you had something like our tiny little R50, this might be a better suited mic for attaching directly there. However, and it's also not a powered mic. So this is a passive mic that's going to really make use of your internal audio amp inside of the camera. So this is going to be your least impressive mic. I don't recommend using a non-powered passive mic on a camera like this. Then we have things like a different Rode VideoMic that is powered, and when you plug it in, automatically recognizes and kicks on when you connect it to the camera. But again, it doesn't have a separate gain function, so you're still relying on the camera's internal audio boost. And if you've ever cranked that thing up and heard that hiss that rises, that is the noise floor that you really don't want to be dealing with. So what we are going to do instead is stick to our mini locks. And if we are using a 3.5 millimeter aux cable style microphone, we're going to stick to the VideoMic Pro Plus because it has this really cool function that I highly recommend working with, which is a plus 20 decibel gain. So you pop that on, the mic itself cranks its power way up, and the sensitivity goes way up, and then you can turn your camera's internal mic sensitivity way down, thus saving you oh wow, I flipped those the wrong way. Anyway, you turn this on, thus saving you dealing with that noise floor issue when you're actually trying to record audio later on. So now we have the rig as I very often carry it around, especially for documentary work, where we have our microphone that's actually nicely up and sort of a little bit up and away from like the central lens and stuff. You can still very easily, I'll show you in the overhead camera here, you can still very easily get your hand into and around the microphone and the battery plate, which is a very common problem otherwise, dealing with these top accessories crowding the daylights out of that top handle and you can't really get a hold of it. Especially with the mic, you don't want to be like bumping that thing and having mic rub sounds from your fingertips touching it. So you want to make sure you have a little bit of clearance here between these objects so you can get a hold of this thing just fine. And we have freed up a mounting point here if we wanted to put something like a monitor on top, or if you're sticking to your built-in monitor, which, by the way, this is on a separate NATO, so you can always slide this forward. You can get longer USB-C cables if you need to. But yeah, while you're operating, you can still see this monitor just fine, which frees this up to even allow you to put like a wireless transmitter on there if you need to actually send an HDMI feed out to someone like remotely. So as our rig builds out and we have a great many accessories, we now have the ability to get decent quality audio, super long recording time from the battery, super long recording time from our external SSDs, plus very much ease of offload. Though this is not a standard USB-C connection, I mean, we have this like unique pin set here, which is different from our other external SSD, which just had a USB-C right here. But the cool thing to note about these SSD top handles is that if you take them off of the camera, you can still, let's zoom in on this for you. You can actually just connect the USB-C port here on the end. You can connect this straight to literally any computer and it will just read this as an external SSD. So if you don't have a second unit or a special card reader for this, you can actually just take the whole top handle off at the end of the day or during lunch and just hand it off and let DIT pull data straight off of the handle. So it does function as a card reader as well as an external recorder, you know, by way of the internal codec and formatting options. So strongly recommend this or that SanDisk 1 terabyte SSD that I showed at the beginning of this. And again, there is a link in the description below to like a special like whatever Amazon everything in one place like shopping cart thing in case anybody wants to check some of this stuff out. I'll also be using the I'll be going back to this later and like checking the comments and stuff. Anything else that I mentioned that I didn't already add to that, I'll be adding that later. Let me catch up real quick here on the chat for you guys. Love you guys are chatting with the Tilta stuff. It's awesome. Oh yeah. SmallRig's doing some sort of collab things. Super interesting stuff. I actually have a different project that I'm in discussion with another creator about possibly tapping into that, depending on how some other discussions may or may not go. So interesting stuff, but you know, a lot of things I'm not going into in great detail just now, but I will be discussing that with you guys later on. So back to our overhead for a minute here. So how long have we been at this? We've been at this for a minute, right? This is pretty good stuff. Look at us go. Hour 48 already. We're gonna hit the 2-hour mark in no time. Okay, so if you wanted to use a proper XLR microphone, there are a few options. Obviously, the industry standard Sennheiser MKH416, which I literally keep in this room right above me. So if you were using something like the audio guy preferred industry standard MKH416, not the cheapest mic in the world, $1,000 boom mic or $1,000 shotgun mic, which is normally used for like dialogue for booms. When you are as far away from your subject as you are during like documentary stuff, you're not going to get as clean a pickup as if you like actually boom it in overhead with a proper sound guy. So you know, it might be overkill for some conditions. If you're kind of far away from your subject anyway, you're not going to get great dynamic range sound. You know, you're kind of doing a scratch track thing. So you may not always need this. Also, if you're shooting like documentaries or if things are going out on rental, maybe you don't want to send your $1,000 mic out every time. So for a lot of reasons, I really like having my Deity mics. They also sound just fine. A little bit of tweaking makes them sound pretty close to the 416. I haven't yet had a chance to play with the S-Mic 3s, but I did see them on display at NAB, so I do hope to have a chance to actually toy around with those soon. And if you guys let me know in the comments, both on the live now, but also like later on if you happen upon this post live, definitely let me know in the comments if you want me to do any demos or comparisons amongst a few different mics, because like I said, right now just in my own stock I have the S-Mic 2, S-Mic 2S, the MKH416, I have the VideoMic Pro Plus. Where'd the other mics go? Had a bunch of other mics out here like 2 seconds ago. As well as, yeah, here they are. This less bougie Rode video mic and this even less bougie, is it a Tascam? Turnstile Audio. It's a little tiny turnstile audio mic. So I could do some mic comparisons for you guys, which I actually should do anyway for someone like the creator space when they're figuring out like when to use a lav, like what I'm wearing here, or when to use a proper like professional lav with a wire and a proper transmitter pack, versus when to use a shotgun mic or onboard or window boom. So maybe I'll make that video anyway, but I also have a ton of stuff I have to make for you guys. So you guys kind of let me know what it is you're interested in me actually like doing and steering for future streams and or like proper edited videos. This is obviously much easier for me to do on stream because if I'm streaming, I can just chat with you guys and talk to you in real time about stuff. So all that being said, let's clear this junk out and show you the actual thing I was trying to show you, which is this guy. So if you have a shotgun mic and you want to use anti-twist mounting options, we have this lovely, again, Condor Blue, because their stuff is crazy good. Condor Blue mic mount with these rubberized holders, so you can slip a mic in and have a nice little shock mount so you don't pick up the sounds of handling your camera while you're actually out running and gunning. So this is a nice way to get a mic onto your camera with relative ease. Actually, I'm gonna flip that around because of how the cold shoes already are. The mini lock is attached there. Hit. Behold, as I struggle with rubber bands. There we go. Okay, we're in. We're good. We're in. Yeah, okay, sweet. So you use a small little mic like this. You can just drop that right into our mini lock like so. And then you have, once again, a nice little setup. And you can still pop an XLR cable from this into one of your mini XLRs, provide phantom power, and you're good to go. And of course, added benefit of something like a dead cat windscreen. And because once again, we've given ourselves a little bit of extra wiggle room here with our top handle. I'm gonna slide this over just a hair, slide it back, give ourselves a little cable room here. So since we've given ourselves some wiggle room here, the top handle, we can still grab this from the top and not be touching the mic. So we don't have to deal with any handling sounds while recording, which makes this a decent little run and gun, relative run and gun, handheld rig for shooting things like documentaries and still getting high quality on camera / scratch audio. And this now having room, like I said, for something like a wireless transmitter. This entire kit as is just a map box, a wireless kit, which there's room to attach those things now, and pop that onto a tripod, pop that onto a dolly, all of which are attached with a 501 quick release plate, and you can basically have this rig set up and ready to go in terms of just like popping into a bunch of additional stuff. So let's talk about getting this now built out with the wireless kit, both for video and for follow focus, because Like we were saying earlier, physical real estate on the body is super important. And as we can already see now, we have our batteries hanging off a little bit on this side, and our mic is all the way over here. We have just enough room to get a large adult male hand in here. This camera should not be any smaller than this in order to have a microphone, battery, and top handle. Now, if I did do the thing where I like put this on rails and had the battery on a vertical plate back here, I'd have to leave extra room to not hit this. I do recognize that I am building my camera kind of tall at this stage because I do intend to add more things to it from here. I also, I guess being a tall guy, I don't mind building my cameras kind of tall and holding them and cradling them under the weight instead of having them kind of like long and being sort of far away from the monitor because I have to leave all this extra room for the battery. It does get a little bit cumbersome unless you're doing a shoulder top rig. If you're actually doing a shoulder top rig, having the battery back there with a little bit of counterweight is super nice. And especially if you're using something like an EVF, having that back there is nice, but that is a different kind of setup. And myself being, once again, a ridiculously tall guy, I pretty much never am shooting on a shoulder rig because then if I am, I'm like pointing down at everybody and it's like MySpace selfie angles on everyone all the time. So I'm pretty much like super, super big on just chest cradling with the extra, points of contact, elbows against the body so that I can handle the camera. So all that being said, and Ankit says, honestly, sound comparison will be great because we need some more conversations about choices in audio for film and video. That's true. That's true. I noticed that the guys who cover audio for film and video don't have like nearly the subscribers or like interest or traffic as the guys who do like video and or like lens tests or camera body tests, which is wild to me because like if your film sounds bad, it's way less immersive than if it looks bad and sounds good. So I don't know why audio doesn't get more love than it does. I really wish it did get a lot more attention. We also know from people who are doing, online demos, live streams, or video gaming or whatever, you pretty much can't get away with like a terrible audio quality mic now. And I think it's also part of why, like, because there's so little understanding en masse, like how audio works, what makes really good audio function the way it does, is why so many people have that same, like, Shure SMB7 whatever, or like the podcast mic everyone has. You talk into the end of the thing. I think the reason everyone has that is because like someone has it, it sounds good, and they're like, we don't understand how it works, so we're just going to buy the thing that someone else is using, and then like there's just like not much technical understanding that ends up attached to that. So I will definitely do that. I will do a separate audio thing. I do know a lot about it because of having actually shot a Union Sound Mixers masterclass. So I have a lot of that knowledge, and I can happily share it with you guys in terms of how to get good sound and connecting all this stuff. So, and that's true, Anki. People do love seeing cool B-roll. So, all right, let's pop to our overhead here for a minute. I'm going to grab a few more items so that I can get some additional accessories attached to this real quick, and we're just gonna take a couple of minutes while I grab a few accessories and get ready to do a wireless video and wireless follow focus setup. And I'll even make a second little note of that. Wireless kits up next. Okay, cool. Y'all will appreciate this yet again, and this. Bam and bam. I'll leave that tilted, it's fine. All right. I'll be back. All right, everybody. We are back, and we're gonna finish up with our big rig, and then we're going to knock out the DJI Ronin setup, and then we're gonna go from there. Okay, so for this, we want to go ahead and attach a transmitter. And you know what? Let's use this one. This is the easier one to use. Transmitter conveniently on. I'm cute. It was quiet for so long. When I said, "All right, everybody," it jumped. That's so funny. Yeah, sorry. I could have eased into that maybe a little better. All right. And of course, I did this kind of sideways so that I can still, once again, still get access to my top handle as needed. And I do love having the wireless transmitter on the top highest point on the rig, obviously the clearest, most open area when it comes to the clearance for the transmission. Once again, let's go switch the overhead for you guys. You guys can see what I'm doing. All right, so we're going D-tap power. You know what? Actually, there's a better D-tap power cable that I've got than this one. I've got a D-tap power cable over here that has a lifetime warranty. If I can find where I put it. Here we go. And this is the one I want. Oh wait, not that one. Ha, fake out. Oh, there it is. Got it. We're good. These iconic blue cables, as you know. Big fan. Lifetime warranty. Can't beat it. All right, so we have our power cable from our power distribution battery plate straight into our transmitter. And we have our HDMI cable straight from camera into our handy dandy transmitter as well. Let's go and snake this cable around a bit so we're not dangling around all awkwardly over things. Oop, I see. Go under this cable. There we go. That'll give me the extra inch of room. Sometimes it takes just one extra inch. All right, cool. So now we can still grab our top handle. We can still have everything in access to stuff on our rig. We can even attach, assuming I sized this right, a matte box. Oh, it's totally not sized right. 82 millimeters. All right, I have just the coupler to make this thing work. There we go. And again, this is a casual hang. There we go. Throw on our 82. Where you at? Get in there. There we go. 82 millimeter filter thread to 95 millimeter adapter. Now we can have nice things. So now our rig is looking a heck of a lot more like a traditional cinema rig. We have a matte box, which, as you know, is the main difference between a $500 client and a $5,000 client. We have our, I'm pretty proud of this little setup here. A mix of overhead and normal vision here. We have matte box, cinema lens that is a anamorphic. We have built-in shotgun mic, not obstructed by anything on the actual rig, not touching the handle, our wireless transmitter, battery to power all the accessories and things, and obviously the built-in monitor flips up and is daylight bright. So in this instance, we don't necessarily need an additional monitor separate from this. So this is basically our kind of everything rig setup here. This is getting perhaps a little cumbersome for handheld, but not impossible by any stretch of the imagination. And what is nice about this is you can take this and now pop this up onto a shoulder rig if you wanted to, thanks to our handy dandy, where'd it go? This guy. So our quick release plate can attach directly to a shoulder pad, and this little sandwich here gives you access to rods that can go for a lens support or wireless follow focus. It also gives you the quick release plate here, so you can throw this up on your shoulder, unvelcro this. A very cool sound of Velcro tearing. The old Velcro wallet vibes. There we go. Bam. Shoulder mount. And once again, we are able to just side load and lock right into that. And just like that, you have a shoulder pad, so you can get your camera up on your shoulder. Bam. In this instance, I'm just kind of demoing this because I don't have the whole like side handles and stuff on here just now, and then with that, you can just as easily pop that loose and release it. And as you know, from undoubtedly plenty of rigging demos in your own workings, that with a couple of rails of various lengths, you can attach a number of wondrous things, including side handles and rosettes and mounting plates for batteries, so on and so forth. So I'm gonna demo this one more time without getting too in the weeds about what an entire shoulder rig could be. Pop this back on the camera. So a slightly easier handhold point. There you go. There we go. This is probably a little bit more reasonable looking. Ooh. So now we have our shoulder rig set up. As you can imagine, having a handle here on an extension arm attached to either of these rosette, either putting rosettes on this on like a side bridge connector point thing, or attaching however you like in terms of accessories on this. So that is an easy attach to a shoulder rig kit. And because we are doing our quick release side loader, which I also have my tripod here adapted to, we can just quickly pop on a tripod. And we're good to go with all of our accessories included. And now we can operate, everybody's happy, so on and so forth. And I'll give you one more cool one. So I showed you earlier. We can swap this out for our Dovetail. Lock and load. And then when we aren't using a shoulder rig, or if you have multiple units of this, in this instance I only have the one, so we're going to tear down the shoulder rig here real quick. Then we can basically move this onto here and I will show you how. Bam, overhead. Welcome, Arnold Jr. Moyo. No, definitely not too late. We've gone over a lot of stuff, and we still have quite a bit to go over here. We did an extremely basic setup of just basically throwing a 501 PL plate on, so you can, you know, go minimal run and gun. We did a setup with just the cage and minimal additional accessories added, and now we're building out the biggest rig we sort of can with making sure we have real estate for all of our accessories like wireless kits and all that. And then we're going to strip it back down to the end and show you an overhead rig as well as the DJI RS4 Pro gimbal setup. Now, going back to this, so now we have that same quick release plate is actually a dovetail receiver on the bottom. So when we want to, we can pop this whole arrangement here directly onto our dovetail, and now we have the ability to adjust center of gravity forward and back as we need to, and we can still quick release our camera using the side loader directly in. So now, even if we find that our unit is a bit back heavy, we can just slide our dovetail forward or back as needed, find center of gravity, and now we're able to do that way beyond the limitations of what the built-in 501 plate on any given head would normally allow us to do. So with this allows us to basically have kind of whatever setup we want now. With the rails here, we can go ahead and throw on our wireless follow focus kit. And with that in place, I mean, we'll basically have everything. It'll be matte box with access to ND filters. We're already on an anamorphic lens. We have wireless transmission. We have built-in audio, or on-camera audio, I should say. Oh, and this will be a great example, by the way, of why we love the side loaders so much. So this will be a fun little showcase in just a moment. Because I was talking about this at the very beginning of the video, why we love side loaders and why we don't want to deal with rear loading 501 plates you have to slide into place separately from everything else. All right, so now we are running into a fresh issue. We have our first D-tap is powering the camera, second D-tap is powering this. We can either connect a splitter/hub, or because our transmitter will actually accept a voltage range of 6 to 16 volts, we're just going to plug that directly in with a DC to DC power cable, which I have over yonder way. So I'm just going to swap that out. I'm going to commandeer this for something else in a minute. We're going DC barrel 12 volt off of our power plate that's also a power distribution setup. And we're going to go straight into our transmitter. So transmitter is still powered, and I just got my D-tap accessible again, which I'm now going to use the D-tap cable that came with my wireless follow focus setup. And I'm going to power that. All right, so I'll go ahead and give you guys a quick refresher on what all we have here. Full production kit mode here. We've got matte box, anamorphic lens. We have a wireless follow focus motor attached here, so your first AC can pull focus. We have a wireless transmitter here. We have an external battery, as well as room to switch this out for a much larger battery if you only want to swap once or never throughout the day, depending on whether or not you decide to go for something massive like the Core SWX Apex 360, which I mentioned earlier is just such a crazy awesome battery that can handle 24 amp draw, and it's like $1 a watt, which is just like a crazy deal for batteries that are that high quality. External audio, and our power plate is also power distribution, so we don't need a separate distro hub or D-tap splitter for this. I guess the only thing that would be potentially left would be if sound wanted to come by with a Timecode jam sync or Genlock even, and actually tie in permanently to this. Now, if they did want to do that, I'd say, because we're being thorough here, let's go ahead and attach that last object. I think that'd be really cool. So they did want to do that. I would say to attach yet another right here on this side. Mini lock plate, which is still going to be out of the way of our cables. Slide that on. A little space pointing forward there. I'll give you an overhead view of this in just a moment. And I'm gonna go grab my Timecode Ginny boxes so y'all can appreciate this super cool maneuver. And thanks to the fact that cages have become so universal, we don't have to use Velcro anymore. It's fantastic. So we now have these lovely little cages that go around the Timecode boxes. So instead of just using the Velcro built in, which is underneath here, you actually have a 1/4-20 mount, but the whole thing is also built into and with a mini lock plate already like as a part of the cage style, and an additional 1/4-20 mount here. So if you want to just use 1/4-20 mounts, you can, but realistically, it's even cooler to just pop that into our mini lock. Oops, let's make a little adjustment here in terms of the angle of this guy. This is going to pop in here. It's going to need a little bit of room. Oh, we don't need room. It's good. We're good. My bad. We don't have to adjust anything. I was wrong. It was perfect already. And just like that, we have audio cable straight into the mic input, which is what we hijacked to get timecode into this camera. And there you have it. Even timecode's included now. So I'm gonna do an overhead here and kind of rotate this thing so you guys can see a little more details of exactly how this guy is connected. Part of what's cool about this is like we're on the tripod now. We have the wireless follow focus attached to our rails. If we wanted to, we could take our battery plate and put it on a rear mounted piece here off these rails as well. And as I showed you earlier in terms of quick releasing and attaching to a shoulder rig, if you move the battery plate to the back, you would get that rear counterweight for your shoulder rig just fine. So popping this off of here, let's do one more quick look over all this cool stuff we've got, which can come right with the tripod, or we can quick release from here and pop this whole camera away from your rails and the follow focus. Now, depending on how your map box is attached, that could also pop you free from the map box as well. So this can be built out in a way that would let you basically do a quick swap between like a full controlled movement, you know, cinema rig, where you've got like lots of support and lots of people that are going to help you with stuff. Again, ignore this brand. This is not something that I endorse or recommend to people. It's just a cheap battery I've got laying around. If you want a good battery that is small, Core is the guy to go with. Just so y'all know, you don't have to put a gargantuan Apex 360 car battery on here, though I love doing that. You can definitely get the Core Micro or Core Minis. They are amazing. So all that being said, basically we have Mapbox, this guy, this biz, powering everything. We have our wireless transmitter. Over here, you can see our wireless follow focus is connected and powered off the transmitter. We have our audio timecode sync attached to a mini lock, so you don't have to deal with freaking Velcro all day. And my favorite thing to show off is like, if you have a rig This is why I absolutely love using things like mini locks and the anti-twist things and NATO rails everywhere you can, so you're not relying on like cold shoes and Velcro and stuff. Once your rig is built, experience this thing and tell me if this makes you feel uncomfortable when you do it with your own setup. But once you're built up, can you grab your rig by the top handle and hold it upside down and feel like nothing's gonna fall off? Because the first time that I ever built up a rig with proper attachments and anti-twist things and mini locks and NATO rails, handling it and it all feeling like one solid secure unit, like it was all manufactured this way, that I was like, wow, I actually feel very confident and fine, like holding it upside down and shaking it. When you have a rig that's made entirely of Velcro and cold shoes, that is not a good feeling. Going upside down with your rig feels bad and scary. So this is sort of the maxed out rig configuration here. We do still have room to grab our side grip, which is super nice to have at least a built-in side grip. If you are going to go handheld on this rig and maybe someone else is pulling focus for you if you're like fully decked out like this, some people want to have a handle over here, but that gives you like a lot of that like weird micro jitter stuff. So I always prefer to actually just keep my resting hand here for holding the weight up. And then this one is kind of my steering hand, and I keep my elbows tight against my body so that I can do lots of operation and like keep it fluid, keep it moving while someone is actually doing the focus pulling for me. Yeah, Arnold, exactly that. This setup for mini dock shoots is the move. Also, P.S. if you happen to be in LA, the LA area, that's where I am. So hit me up, man. Otherwise, you acquire these tools and build it out, or you can rent it out to the people. That's what you're referring to. But yeah, this is a great setup for mini docks, especially like the ability to throw an anamorphic lens onto a full frame body in a thing this size. Like I know for like FXC shooters and mirrorless shooters and like cell phone shooters and Osmo like content creators, this seems like a super crazy giant cinema rig. When we do our Pixis video, we will really see how big things can get. But like, and or the I'm also making Ursa Mini video as well for my OG Ursa Mini homies that are out there still doing stuff. Because I love the Ursa Mini still. But like compared to like a Venice 2, for example, right? Like this is a very manageable rig for shooting what would be like proper super high quality like cinema level footage, especially with like I said, anamorphics and stuff on the full frame. So appreciate that comment in the comment section, guys. Okay, so from here we're gonna tear this all the way back down. I'm gonna show you guys the super like ridiculously easy way to set this up, or really any camera that's in any cage, to set this up as an overhead rig. And then from there, we're gonna pop it up onto the DJI Ronin RS4. Is it called Ronin? The DJI RS4. And then we're gonna be, I think pretty much there in terms of this this stream. So still have a couple more setups to do. I'm gonna hydrate just a little bit here. And a reminder to you guys, if you haven't hydrated, definitely hydrate. As we all know, growing up, it seems like coffee is the most adult beverage, and then you become an adult and of legal age to drink, and you think that alcohol is the most adult beverage, and then you become a real adult and find out that water has always been the most adult beverage all along. So definitely hydrate. Let's all stay alive and healthy and here with each other for a very long time. I'm gonna hang on the overhead while I tear this business down, so we can all enjoy this gorgeous overhead rig. And the overhead thing I'm going to show you is the same setup I'm currently using for my overhead, which is much simpler than one might think. So pop this guy off of here. I should have some elevator music to play for you guys during teardown. Or which game show is it? That's Price is Right or Jeopardy. It's like do 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 do. In the meantime, feel free to let me know in the chat. I'm curious what I assume everybody here are Pocket 6K full frame users and or at least Blackmagic shooters. I'm curious what all lenses you guys are using for your different projects these days, because I love seeing what different lenses people pair with different cameras. I'm a big fan of there's a whole theory I have about lens color biases, or lens color shifts, I should say, and sensor color biases. I remember when the Rokinons and then the Zines first came out, a lot of people were complaining that they had this real green kind of washy, look that was just like really, really, it was like universally bad across the board. No matter what they shot, it all looked like terribly green and terrible and bad. And I realized pretty quickly, like I was using those lenses on my Blackmagics, they all looked great on the things that I was shooting, and I was like, I know this isn't just me being like, I know how to shoot and they don't, because everyone knows how to shoot, right? But the reality of the matter is, at the time, the Sony A7S, especially the A7S II, was extremely, extremely popular, and the A7 series, especially at the time, had a pretty intense green bias on the sensor. So any lenses that skewed a little green would have a pretty rough, like, overall green wash. And given that that's the case, you'd end up in a situation where you're like, oh, there's all this extra green in my shot that I can't just like easily grade out. And so, meanwhile, on Blackmagic sensors, as many of us know from dealing with our own footage, these sensors tend to be a little bit magenta biased, right? Hence the reds and the skin tones looking so good. So when you have a lens that shifts or skews a little green, it actually neutralizes really, really well on a sensor that otherwise tends to like have a bit of magenta bias. So things like Zines, Rokinons, the DZO lenses that have a little bit of like a cyany or greeny sort of tint, especially the Sigma Art lenses, those definitely flare in like the blue-green range, which is part of why like they look really sharp and contrasty, but the colors look really natural and like neutral on a Blackmagic sensor, and that is why. So you may notice if you put something like, like Canon K35s or some like the warmer vintage glass, like the Takina, like 11-16, those tend to be a little warmer, kind of a golden-y kind of look to the lens, and then we put that on a magenta bias sensor, you get this very like sunset pinky wash over a lot of your stuff. So it definitely helps. Ursa Mini G2, it really is. The Ursa Mini Pro G2 is so good, and you can get it for such a deal now. Still having access to 15 stops of dynamic range, 120 frames per second slow-mo, you guys, in 4.6K RAW. I love that camera. Yeah, I'll never give mine up. My Ursa Mini 4.6K G2. Another one I think was already slept on, Arnold, was the Ursa Broadcast G2. Again, their naming convention is always a bit of a mystery. Like, they didn't call this a pocket body, even though it's pocket style. The Ursa Broadcast G2, they didn't call it an Ursa Mini Broadcast, they just called it an Ursa Broadcast. So by name alone, it seems like it would be the super giant one, but I'm sure they had their reasons for calling it that. But the Ursa Broadcast G2, which is an Ursa Mini body and has the same 6K sensor as the Pocket 6K Pro, will shoot B-RAW internally. And so like, that also could have just been the Ursa Mini 6K, but people don't think of it or know of it as that. They only know of it as, oh, it's this broadcast camera. So yeah, that's another one I think people definitely slept on, is having access to an Ursa Mini 6K, because a lot of people love the Pocket 6K sensor and the Pocket 6K look a lot. yeah, I'd say if someone's on a budget, and or trying to get like, you know, down to get like an older model of camera at a, you know, at a reasonable price, I think that something like the Yosemite G2 is a very, very good way to go. Same thing with the even the Yosemite 12K. Like, that camera definitely could have been marketed more as a as an 8K camera, because again, it will shoot 8K 120 frames a second full sensor, and then if you do the 4K crop, it'll do 4K 240 in 12-bit RAW, which is just outlandish. That kind of like image quality and resolution for a camera that, you know, after the initial price drop on it was like $6,000 new. Even now, that's crazy. An 8K 120, 4K 240 camera, that's $6,000 is just crazy. And that camera came out in 2020. That we've had 8K 120, 4K 240 since 2020. And I think because, you know, they really heavily leaned into like, look, it's 12K, it's 12K. Look how far we can zoom in on 12K. People like didn't even know. So even during, you know, the slow returning to work after the lockdown stuff, like while I'd be on set, and people would talk about like, oh yeah, did you see this Ursa Mini 12K thing? Who needs 12K? They'd say, and I would always tell them, well, okay, ignore the 12K for a second. What are your thoughts on a camera that can shoot 8K up to 120 without any compromise in terms of cropping, or up to, you know, 4K and 240? And they go, what? It can do that? Yeah, yes, it can. So again, just a question of marketing. If I were in charge of that, I would have said, hey everyone, here's an 8K camera, and then maybe now, you know, 2025, 2026, then be like, hey, firmware update, we've unlocked the rest of the pixels on that camera. Now that 8K is becoming more of a standard, and things like, you know, Canon's new 7K, you know, mirrorless body, it's like, great, now we've unlocked the rest of the pixels. You can now have access to 12K without having to buy a new camera. That's a cool idea. But alas, here we are. Hydrating more. Yeah, and Keith, that's exactly right. Blackmagic is like the most like, oh, we didn't see you there company. They're just like toiling away, like, oops, we accidentally made a 17K, like basically IMAX camera, and you're like, good Lord. Yeah, I don't know where the tech is gonna even stop. I mean, they surprise me constantly with their like innovations and other things. We're gonna take this, we're gonna pop this off of here because we are now strictly going for, like I said, the stripped down but still in a cage in case you want to attach accessories, as well as a overhead rig. The overhead rig is going to be that, as well as doing the DJI Ronin setup. So you can take this top rail off of here and then surprise you guys with just how easy it is to have this thing be an overhead rig. Definitely let me, I mean, I would say show of hands in the comments, but I respect it if anybody is just kind of lurking and hanging out and watching. So I will just say, I'm pretty confident quite a few of us own a couple of C-stands, maybe even a couple of Matthews arms or grip arms if you don't have Matthews brand. So this overhead rig thing is so clever. And I've been meaning, actually, this is actually something I actually did I shot a whole video on it. I haven't edited it yet because actual shoots with like clients where I have to go to set keep coming up, which I'm also doing tomorrow. Oh, I should mention that. Tomorrow won't have a stream. I'm gonna make a post about that because I'm gonna be on set for one of my clients who I'll be doing another interview with later on. So today is the big long stream that'll let to tide everyone over for a couple days, and then I should be back on Wednesday. But continuing with our overhead rig, because that is what we're here doing. Let me grab my handy dandy box of gizmos. Grab this guy. One of these. Cool. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So, oh, and I need a quarter 20, or sorry, a 3/8 mounting thread as well. I'll take this one. That'll do. That'll do. Okay, so for our overhead rig, we simply need a NATO rail on each side of the camera. So we already have one here because someone at SmallRig was not asleep that day. And since this is already very much like a NATO rail, they actually did this one. This one, however, which is also very much like a NATO rail, isn't a NATO rail, and I don't know why. We're gonna make it a NATO rail now. So using our RE anti-twist pins to drop in there, and the negative space on the bottom of our little Condor blue NATO rail, we're gonna drop that in, and we're going to make this into a NATO rail side. If I'm not mistaken, haha! If you are a memory card fan, you can still get access to your memory card even with a NATO rail here. So once again, no idea why they did not just make that a NATO rail at the time. But again, this is not a episode simply critiquing the cages we do have access to, but more showing us how to do cool stuff with the cages we have access to. Now, one more very cool thing that I'm going to show you guys that attaches to our two NATO rails that becomes an instant overhead camera rig. And those things are these things. So, once again, Condor Blue makes a very cool thing. These are all the way on this. This is an attachment, which is a NATO rail clamp on one side, and then underneath here is a standard baby pin receiver and or the end of a Matthews arm. So what we will do, let's zoom back out of those, we're not getting too shaky on this overhead. We will attach NATO rail number 1 to NATO clamp baby pin receiver number 1. We will attach NATO rail number 2 to NATO rail number 2, which is actually built into the cage this time. This is also part of why it's so cool that Condor Blue has built-in NATO rails all over all their cameras, because you can do this with pretty much any cage that company makes. And you should pretty much always seek cages that are actually made of NATO rails, because if something has to be a bar anyway, you may as well just make it a NATO rail in the meantime. So I'm gonna go make it a NATO rail anyway. I'm gonna go grab a couple of C-stand arms to really drive the point home here, and I will show you exactly how this becomes an overhead rig. All right, and so we have gone downstairs and acquired a couple of Shorty Matthews arms. And these could, of course, be the full length, 40-inch Matthews arms as well. And what you do is you throw these on C-stands, point the arms out sideways, slide in, gosh, cat hair, arm number one. Going to tighten that down. Even already it has enough grip, as you can see, to be a nice little overhead setup. So if this is light enough, you technically could have like an arm out and then counterweight this. But in reality, you probably want to add a second arm and just have two C-stands. There you go. Tighten this down. And just like that, you have two rods, basically creating a system that more or less just impales your camera. Or it looks like, like that goofy hat. It's like the arrow that goes in one side and like bends over your head and sticks out the other. But yeah, so this allows you to attach to a couple C-stands, and you can use the longer arms as well, and then just rotate, pointing straight down, and then raise that up. So like right now, what you're seeing here with longer arms and a C-stand on one side and a C-stand on the other, this is the exact rig that you are looking through when I do my overheads, which is why, admittedly, with how high up I have mine set, as I walk right past the stands and I'm zoomed all the way in, you might see a bit of motion wobble, but while I'm standing here, there's not really any shaking, and because it's not attached directly to the station, while I handle things on the table or move the table around, it doesn't automatically introduce a bunch of camera vibration and camera shake. So basically just building a scaffolding where instead of attaching like some sort of a base mount or 501 plate and then having the camera like torque trying to like rotate away from the center of gravity, which is on the base plate itself. So instead of trying to like attach here and then the camera with its lens is like pulling it, from it directly overhead to trying to slide it down like that. When you have your rods attached on the sides, the center of gravity being the lens and us being aligned with the lens here, natural inclination to point straight down gives you a perfect overhead rig. So basically, since I assume most of us already have C-stands and or possibly even a couple of Matthews arms, this is like one of the cheapest ways to build an overhead rig, because each of these I think only costs, correct me if I'm wrong, but these may be like 30-ish bucks each. So this is like kind of a $60 overhead rig, and these are beefy. Like these are designed to hold like lights and stuff. So the camera weight really isn't much of a concern. And I'll actually show you one more fun little thing about this. Right now I'm using these two, right, left and right of a camera of this weight. However, I could just as easily, with a little tiny mirrorless and a NATO rail on the bottom of that, use only one. So if you have a very, very, very lightweight camera like this, same deal, but you literally only need one. So this becomes like a little popsicle stand. So yeah, with a lightweight camera, you can basically throw this guy on the end of an arm and just swing this out over your desk just off of a C-stand. And that gives you an easy way to get an overhead camera that isn't attached to your desk. So when you handle things or type or show something in an overhead setup, you're not automatically introducing wobble just because you're handling the desk itself. So highly recommend. I think I have these also in the little shopping cart link thing at the bottom, but strongly recommend getting a bunch of these. They're very cool. On the flip side, if you want to actually attach this to a knuckle to be able to change the angle directly, you can instead use like the 501 plate with the quick release, and then Condor Blue has these like Cine pins that are part of the Brady Bissett Cine Jaws system, and you can actually attach the Cine pins directly to the anti-twist. I'll show you here. You can attach it on the bottom side of this. The anti-twist center pin can have a baby pin sticking off of it, and you can put that right into unknuckle and tighten it down. So that's the overhead rig. It's actually quite fast and very simple compared to everything else going on. What bottom plate am I using? So this bottom plate is an extra long 501 plate. That is, I can't remember who sells this one. It's not, they do, this is like a generic one. I would recommend getting the one that looks like, I actually have it around, here it is. I'd recommend getting the one that's actually by Manfrotto, which looks like this. Actually has like extra mounting points. It has this little sliding mechanism here and like an extra little knob thing that like gives you an extra like connecting point for not having like the camera rotate. The actual Manfrotto one is very good. I have that linked in the description below. I might also have I think I also have a link to the third-party one as well. Technically, you could get a Condor Blue one that's extra long, but that comes as a part of a riser system for like a DJI Ronin, so that's like more complicated to get a hold of their extra long plate, I think. So yeah, there definitely is a link below, just so you know. Arnold, I wanted to make sure I answer your question. Also, apparently, oh, actually, here we go, another one. What tool am I using? Yes, this, I'm glad you asked. Vino. So this is I love this thing to death. So this is the Condor Blue EDC multi-tool. It has a magnet, extra parts to like places to actually attach your bits. It has 3 different standard longer bits on the sides. It has a bunch of smaller bits here in the middle. And these are just standard bits, so you can replace these with your own if you have like different ones you like to use. And then it has this little magnetic thing that just like keeps this stuff safe and keeps them from falling out. Bubble level, which I actually didn't think I'd end up using much, but I do actually use it a lot when I'm like putting shelves and stuff up in my house. I'll like slide this against the wall and actually use the bubble level before I place mounting holes. And then I still love showing this thing off. So when you pop this in, these are all magnetic insert spots, so they like won't lose the bit. But you can use this like a normal screwdriver like that, or you can pop it in this one and it becomes like the T style. And if you need a ton of torque, you can attach it here and then you can pop it in and just like really crank it down. But I will say, if you do this, crank down with the maximum torque like L mode, you might have a hard time untorquing it later if you don't have the same amount of strength you put into it. So the way I like to do it is I will use the end cap mode like a screwdriver, and then if that is hard to untighten later, I'll then use the T mode to unscrew it. Or if I need extra torque when tightening something, I'll use the T mode to tighten it to get the extra torque like so. But I will never use this to initially attach something, because if it over tightens and then like the metal changes shape or size because of like temperature fluctuation, you then used all of your torque ability to get it in place, then it got tighter and you can like never get it off again. So I definitely recommend using the end cap or the middle cap to attach things and only save the maximum torque for like disconnecting stuff later if it gets stuck. Definitely learned that the hard way. So strong recommend, just so you know. But yeah, good question, Vino. I feel like I need to catch up on a bunch of these. Also, I believe earlier on, Pearl Farm, Lofty Coast. Oh, Lofty Coast popped in. I totally missed these earlier. Well, Lofty Coast, I apologize. You were here during the cat AC section. I totally missed your comments. I'm sorry. I'll do better next time. They said a little like extra alarm. Like top fans responding, Lofty Coast and on Keat showing up. popping in number ones. Definitely gotta make sure I'm seeing your messages more. I am still admittedly learning a lot about live streaming, so this is my 6th one. Happy to be here doing demos and stuff for you guys, but definitely as we go, I'm like figuring out how to do this and manage the chat and stuff more. So this is definitely a process and a skill set for sure that has a bit of a learning curve. We're getting there. All right, so as you know, I'm here in this magic internet box talking to you, but I am in fact just a guy who shoots films, just like you. I just happen to enjoy talking to strangers on the internet, who are now my friends. You guys are all friends now. We're cool. We're vibing. All right, so let's do. We did minimal running gun. We did Guerrilla style minimal running gun. We did rigged up handheld. I showed you the shoulder rig. We talked about getting it onto tripod, which is the same for dollying and jibs. We fully kitted it out and decked it out with everything you could have for like a production, including wireless transmitter, audio, timecode, wireless follow focus, all the good stuff. And we stripped it down for an overhead rig. So now, probably what a lot of people have been excitedly waiting for, and people might be popping in even now from the autofocus videos, is the gimbal work. Because with the new autofocus firmware, for those of you who are willing enough to risk taking that and trying it out. Oh, speaking of which, I will get a link updated soon. I actually had to upload that video right before I went live, so there will be a link under that video soon taking you out to the Blackmagic download page for that. So in the meantime, let's show you guys how I like to set this up on my gimbal so that y'all can follow suit, or let me know in the comments if there's any like cool suggestions that you might have for changes on this thing, because balancing is an art form. I appreciate that, Ankit. We like just a guy. Thank you. Not trying to be all pretentious or gatekeepy at anybody, really, ever. I got to get into this industry because of kind people who are willing to share their insights, and I just want to do what I can to share mine as well. And if I happen to own any equipment that you've been considering investing in, and I can help you when I say help you make a purchasing decision, I mean even if I help you decide not to buy something because it's not right for you, that's a win. Like, deciding to not buy something is still a purchasing decision. If I can help you make a purchasing decision, then I feel like I've done some good service, because it sucks having to be like, I have no way of knowing how this works, or if it'll work with my camera, or if it'll work with my setup or my accessories, and then having to buy it and realize like, oh, I shouldn't have acquired this, and now it's going to be a pain to return based on where I bought it from. So, like I said, happy to demo what I've got, and as long as y'all are here, chatting, chiming in, putting in requests, I'm happy to discuss whatever it is y'all want to know about. It's like I said, been doing this for like a freaking, well, been doing this in LA for a decade. I was doing it in the Midwest for about 5 years before that, so been a professional photo and video art and production guy for 15 years. So I am very, very happy to be doing this. Right now, I'm just getting the gimbal kit out. I feel like there's nothing special about like pulling the junk out of the kit. I'll talk about the actual attaching the camera stuff in a minute. On key, speaking of non-recommendations, as long as we stay away from Moza. Ooh, interesting. I'm curious about that. I want to know more about that for the Moza situation. All right. Definitely need to swap out our power plate. So the overhead rig just starts to look like messy desk mode and not like a super slick like studio setup. That's all right. Okay, now, as we discovered earlier, these screw threads here are in line with the actual lens. These screw threads here are designed for a Ronin setup. And part of the reason for that is, if we were to try and center up the lens center screw threads here with the center of this, we are officially hitting over here. So the nice thing about having a cage that takes this stuff into consideration is that we can now be offset appropriately and not need to do any weird like 4D chess to figure out how to actually get this thing rigged up. So let's stick with our off-centered DJI Ronin mounting points here. Again, this cage is for the RS2, but like it doesn't really change. So those for the RS2 realistically still works just fine and great with the RS4. The RS4 Pro even. And of course, they say the RS4 Pro, as though that's relevant in, you know, modern. The RS5 is already out, so I just can't keep up with these things forever. Did a number of shoots for variety with this setup, and a couple music videos. Y'all may have seen my autofocus update video where I shot the one take music video for Brigitte using this rig. Did I just do this backwards? No, it just goes in this way. Lens points forward, loads in backwards. Ah, look at that. That is awesome. I'm the overhead for this. Check out that clearance. That is phenomenal. I don't know if you guys can see this. Zooming in. You guys gotta see that. Look at that. That is a lovely bit of clearance there. We're technically not touching, just totally fine. And fantastic. So the offset, there we go. The offset screw threads totally saved the day. And because the RS4 Pro can handle a ton of weight, I'm not that concerned from here about getting the rest of this to work out just fine. Now we do have a D-tap out. I'm using the special, I'll also show the overhead again for this so you guys can see. Lock this down. So I'm using the power plate on my Ronin kit that actually has a V-mount on the bottom to power and distribute power out to everything. So in this situation, as you know, from my earlier mention of loving 300 to 400 watt hour batteries, I hate losing power. So I'll be running my little mini V-lock on this, which is over here. There we go. And we have some nice clearance here, so we're still not hitting even with the V-mount here. We can even swing it and see. Not hitting there, not hitting on the side. Which we'll dial this in very specifically later, but a mini V-lock on the bottom of this still works fine. No clearance issues so far. And then we're going to power the camera once again using our handy dandy lifetime warranty cable. It's so funny to me. I always say that it's kind of like almost a joke to me. I think Condor Blue makes a ridiculous number of super cool things, and it is so funny to me that every time I mention them to people, everyone's first reaction is like, "Oh yeah, they have the really good cables, right?" I'm like, dude, they make much cooler things. And the cables are great. Don't get me wrong, but I guess the cables are kind of a gateway drug for everybody. Everyone knows the cables more than anything else from this brand. That and the mini locks, which are also phenomenal and I highly recommend. So actually, let me leave a little gap here. I want to make it where I can't actually adjust as needed. Once we get going. There we go. Okay. All right, so we have power. We can still slide our camera forward and back with the inching knob. We still have clearance. Nothing's connected. So far we have camera, external batteries and power everything, and we have our cable to the battery plate. Then we want to throw a lens on this. Let's go crazy. Let's see if we can balance this with that giant lens from earlier. This would be wild. Although no, we're not gonna do that. I'm sorry, we're not gonna do that because we're doing autofocus. So I'm gonna go grab an autofocus lens and then I'll be right back. I got a couple of options here. We can either go totally crazy, 24 to 70, f2.8, which since we are on a full frame sensor is a viable option. I do often like using the Sigma 18 to 35 for this, but that's currently what I'm filming on with my Pocket 6K Pro. So can't attach it to the camera because it's being used on this camera you're looking at now. The other option, granted, of course, you know, that is a Super 35 lens, so you have to be at 28 to 35 millimeters to have full sensor coverage. The other option being our Takina 11 to 16, also a crop lens, but at between, I think, 14 maybe, definitely 15 and 16. It will cover the full frame sensor. And since using a gimbal is so much fun with a wide angle lens, I would normally use this with the Takina 11 to 16. But we are showing cool stuff and proving things today. So we're gonna use the unnecessarily large and heavy from the viewpoint of this use case, 24 to 70. So let's use the heavier lens so I can prove to you guys that this is great. Oh, 28 to 45, yeah. That would be awesome and fun to use for sure. I actually don't think I need anything else from this kit. This is all pretty self-sufficient from here. I'm just gonna set this down. There is so much stuff in this room from all the things I've dragged in here during this stream. Okay, so let's grab our Viltrox EFL Pro lens adapter. I've been covering this thing a bunch. For those of you who are using the full frame autofocus, this adapter works with with pretty much all the lenses I've got that are autofocus. And there are two different versions of it. Once you update the firmware, both versions should work pretty equivalently. But there have been some mixed reviews. I did have a chance to stop in at Viltrox and talk to them at NAB, and they were pretty cool about it. Hopefully I'll have a chance to actually test out. They have a I believe a 16 millimeter, 16 or 18 millimeter, I think it's a 16 millimeter, full frame f1.8 native L mount that has autofocus and it's like a silent motor. Not endorsing it right now because I haven't had a chance to test it, but with any luck, I'll have a chance to test that lens, and then I can do another deep dive, maybe shoot another cool, like, you know, music or skating video, and go skating around with that thing. That'd be a lot of fun. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's so cool, Ankit. It is 16. Okay, cool. Thank you for verifying that. Heck yeah, kickstarting your freelance career on the Pocket 4K and the Canon 50 1.4. Canon 50 1.4 is great. That's a really, really solid lens. I really like that one. Okay, so the only thing left now is the external, realistically, because we have a tilting monitor. I'm not going to worry that much about attaching a wireless video thing to this, but you guys let me know if you want that, because I feel like we're probably talking a lot of like solo operators who are running around the gimbal in this. But I do want to get an external SSD attached because, as I mentioned earlier, that's important to me. So let's go. Actually, this is easy. We're gonna put our cold shoe. No, I'll put it on the side here. This will be great. Use this guy, and we're gonna grab the mini lock plate off of our battery from earlier, and we're gonna attach our SSD handle directly to this rig. That is the larger of the options. And I just want you guys to be able to see all the cool stuff you can do. Oh yeah. Honestly, on key, and really everybody, right? Like I think that like pretty much every lens when it's wide open gets a little crazy. I think that like maybe these ones are pretty sharp still. The Sigma Arts are still pretty sharp at 2.8 wide open, but which includes like the 7200 and the 2470. But yeah, a lot of lenses are like let's say beyond vibey when they're wide open, and then you're kind of stuck doing a lot of chromatic aberration, and the lens can look like it has a little bit of like glaucoma sometimes. So yeah, I definitely agree that pretty much every lens it's worth stopping down 1 or 2 stops. I always tell people like, look, your lens is going to be it's vibiest 1 to 2 stops down from wide open. To put it kindly, any lens wide open is dripping with character. And then once you're 3 or 4 stops down from wide open, you're kind of in the sweet spot for like the clinical, super sharp, or as sharp as that lens is going to get, look, while still having a little bit of subject isolation. And before you get, within a stop or 2 of the most tightened down it can be, which is where you're going to like reintroduce like, whatever diffraction, refraction issues where like it's now stopped down too far and you lose sharpness again, or introduce other weird artifacting issues. So part of why, by the way, I'm not just using, like I said earlier, we have the side NATO rail and this handle comes with the NATO rail. So the reason part of why I'm not doing this is because with the handle on the NATO rail, it's a little far out from the actual body, which can be a little awkward to try to balance it when it's as far away. So we want this to be like as flush as it can be to the actual body, and or possibly even putting it on top. So we're gonna first start by just kind of making this as easy as it can be for our purposes. Let's do like that, right? Like that, or like that. Let's put it there. That seems pretty reasonable. We're already kind of shifted this way because of the center thing. So let's put it over here so we have a little bit more natural counterweight happening just a little bit there. So we are gonna switch back to our overhead here. Grab the right screw thread. Hey, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Enver. Is it Fast or Fassel? Enver Fassel. I'm gonna call you Enver, if that's cool. Thank you so much, Enver. I appreciate that. I love doing this setup. Now, I'm not sure if you're saying that like this setup is nice with the overhead, or if you're saying that this setup is nice with the camera. But either way, thank you. I work hard on my setups. I will say, this overhead shot, I so rarely actually record this overhead shot. I largely just have this here for demos when I do like Zoom calls and remote work with people. I will like when someone, you know, wants a, you know, mentoring session or whatever have you, I will very often just end up using that overhead camera while on a Zoom call, which is always so funny when like someone pops onto Zoom, you know, with their webcam and they're just expecting everyone else to be on a webcam. and then you pop in with this and they're like, what? Oh, what? Cool. Nice setup, man. And then of course we switch an overhead. No one's expecting an overhead on a Zoom call. That's always my favorite. I feel like I'm doing like up close magic on people when I'm on a Zoom call. So anyway, so here's our SSD handle. Now this could be smaller if you used the SanDisk, little SanDisk SSD from earlier, right? That footprint would be smaller. So there are options to still get external SSDs without having to have something kind of as long as this is. But part of what we're doing here is, again, we're showing like some of the heavier options because some people seem to think that like unless you're using a micro studio camera or an FX3 that it is impossible to balance anything on a gimbal, but it's not true. So we're going to prove that today. So nice heavy lens with the lens cap on even. SSD, 2 terabyte SSD on top. We're going to see if our initial SSD cable will even reach this far. And if not, I'll have to grab another one because I have, believe it or not, more than one cable option in my arsenal of stuff. Let's see if I can attach it first and then pop it in. Hit. Come on. Yes. Haha, just reaches. Cool. So, yeah, I'd probably, depending on what's going on, I might use a slightly longer cable than that, but that is neatly tucked. I mean, that fits. Still get access to my monitor. Yeah. You know what? I'm not mad at that. That's cool. I'm cool with that. It's cool for me. Okay, so we have our body, battery, powering camera, external SSD, big beefy lens from gimbal standards, beefy lens. Obviously, if you were using an internal memory card instead of an external SSD, or a smaller external SSD, or if you were just relying on the internal battery, and or, you know, whatever. Like there are ways in which, oh yeah, and also possibly like a pancake lens, or even like a little native L mount, like we showed at the beginning, the Sirui, which ones are those? Not the Venuses, the Saturns. The Sirui Saturns are a little teeny tiny one, but then of course you need something like a wireless follow focus. Now, I think it's Blazar has an autofocus anamorphic lens. There might be other brands that are starting to get on this, but that is something I also very much want to test, is if there are any L-mount autofocus anamorphic lenses, gimbal work is about to get crazy. Just throwing that out there. So definitely let me know. Oh, you can't see the V-mount? Here, I'll show you in the overhead. So you can see, Andrea. Right there. V-mount. On the official Tilta plate that takes V-mounts and gives you power distribution out so that we can power our camera. So yeah, it's a nice little setup. Now for everyone's favorite, which is just like popping off the locks and seeing what direction this thing starts going all crazy. But like, I guess before I continue, shall we test this as is, or shall we connect what is realistically the very final possible thing, which would be, also yeah, no problem. I mean, it's a dark object. I'm wearing a dark shirt, and it's like disguised. It's camo. But should I attach a wireless kit to this thing, or should we just like see if it balances as is, all this crazy nonsense attached? Normally I would just be like, ooh, Unkeith's got the Blazar Cantos. Man, Blazar, Unkeith got some good stuff, man. If we were in the same area, Unkeith, I'd be like, we got to hang out and talk about gear in person. It's like, you have so much of the same stuff I'm like researching all the time. Final boss form. All right, let's do it. Let's put a wireless transmitter on this thing. Fortunately, we have an open cold shoe, and this transmitter goes into cold shoe, so why complicate things? Let's just pop this straight on here. Boom. Cold shoe to cold shoe, come on. Oh. Speaking of clearance, this is crazy. This is designed for this. Or it's like I chose accessories that would work really well. So here's the overhead. Another amazing, crazy clearance situation you guys will enjoy. Right here. This is not touching. And to be fair, as this currently sits in final boss form, as we said, this will not, you can't like easily pop the SSD out, but you can easily enough remove the wireless transmitter, pull the SSD out and keep going. So chances are while you're gimbaling, you're, like I said, especially if you're solo operating, you're going to be like recording on largely one card the whole time until maybe lunch. But separately from that, you can always mount this at a 90 degree, one of the other directions. Let's see here. Yeah, you can always mount it like SWA. In fact, let's just do that now. Let's just do this now. This is even better. Look at that. Beautiful. Go to the overhead again. Look at that. So now we are touching, but you can easily get to your SSD still. Pop that out and put that back in. So, And I would be concerned about getting a little top heavy here with all these things on top, but again, we are already counterbalanced with a V-mount plate here, so not really that much of a concern. So now we can, without even getting an extra power thing to this, let's just go ahead and pop another lifetime warranty cable and just get power straight over to that transmitter. Actually, we need to just swap where this guy's plugged in. Come on now. Come on now. Yeah. Let's do it like so. There we go. It's a little goofy. Hold on. We don't even need to do what I just did, because this particular transmitter will actually take USB-C. So I don't need it to be all weird like this. Can this reach? I don't think it can reach. Maybe it just can. Maybe I'm overcomplicating things here. It can just reach. What am I doing? All right, we're gonna leave this plugged in. It can just reach, you guys. It's fine. We'll even go underneath here. It even has extra room to go underneath. Look at that. Bam. And now we just need a handy dandy HDMI cable. And as you might guess, I have one with a lifetime warranty. So I'm sorry. It tickles me. I'm tickled by it. Lifetime warranty. You guys know. Condor blue cables. I don't think there's a more iconic brand of cables out there. You see this blue on set, you know exactly what it is. All right, so there you have it. Boom. Spared no expense in real estate. We have SSD, we have wireless transmitter, we have V-mount power, we have a big beefy lens for their purposes of gimbal use. Now the question is, can we balance this and actually get it going? Yes. I'm glad. You legitimately do it. They are genuinely good. Lifetime warranty. Tell them Clifton sent you. All right, so we're gonna pop this guy first, and we're going to, I think we're gonna lower this whole rig a bit, because we are swinging down a little. Actually, wait, no, before we lower this, right? What am I doing? I'm gonna front back balance. Now you guys get to watch me gump my way through balancing this gimbal. All right, so we are. Okay, it's pretty front back balanced. Now if we point it this way, it wants to fall like that, which means it needs to go that way. Well, admittedly, this D-tap, not the most convenient spot for them to put that. Okay, now it's trying to fall that way. So I want that to be nicely centered. Let's see if the overhead is interesting here. It is, the overhead's kind of interesting. Okay, so now it's trying to fall, as you can see, with the lens pointing straight up, it's falling toward the battery, so now we, oh, a little bit off again. Yeah. Close enough for government work, as they say. I don't know if I can legally say that in America these days. We jest. We have fun here. So, I'm gonna pop this guy back on. Here. Take up some of the slack. Maybe inside of here. Yeah, we like that. Cool. And then it's got nice and tightened again. We're gonna slide this forward. And now what's it want to do? Now, with the battery in the bottom, it wants to fall backwards. Which means I have room to... Oh, whoa. Whoa. Behold. All right. Oh, did I just... Whatever, we're on the right thing. We're on the right one now. Okay. So now we are loose on this guy. It's good enough. And I'll see our left and right here. If I unlock this, falls that away. So let's move this whole thing that way. I think this is where I get a little bit. Yeah, because I'm pushing down here, so I need to move that way. Okay, this part's really hard to move. Oh, getting there. Ha! Just enough room. Man, this thing is. This is as much stuff I've ever put on here. I normally run this a little more stripped down than this, but like I said, we're extreme. We're extreme testing here. This is like the Red Bull version. All right. Ha! Ha! Here we go. Would you look at that? All right. And then, you know, we are loose. We're loose. This thing swiveling won't change anything. I think now, fingers crossed, if I turn this on, it will calibrate and not have an absolute seizure. So let's see. It has one nugget of battery. Behold. I'll turn it on and make it flash for you. One little blinky light. I'll even do it, lock these and do it with the overhead cam. Let no one claim that I'm doing some kind of crazy sleight of hand here. Bam. See? A blinky. I guess maybe that's a nugget and a half. So let's turn this bad boy on. I mean, that shouldn't surprise anybody. It was pretty well balanced. So that's the whole point though. So now we have a balanced gimbal rig with something as heavy as the 24-105. And we can just tap the screen, autofocus all day, which as you saw from my demo is with the Brigitte Roca Wizard's Peak. I've been talking for like 3 hours, so sorry, my brain's a little fried here. Wizard's Peak video was shot with technically a slightly lighter and less complicated rig than this, but basically this is all you need, and now you can autofocus all day, wireless video feed can go out to your client, and up to you if you want to put on like that belt thing that has like the mounting point so you can keep the weight off of your arms and put it more onto your hips. I also have that belt thing and it rules, so I highly recommend. But yeah, this guy is a nice little setup. All right, another question is anything hanging off awkwardly when I turn this off and it like rotates sideways and snaps? Is anything gonna get hit? Nothing gets hit. We're good. We did it. You guys, we did it. we successfully did this 3 hour and 45 minutes into this stream. We have done all the rigs I said we'd do. All on the the non-pocket style cinema camera 6K full frame Blackmagic camera. So for anyone who came here and joined coming in from my autofocus video, thank you for stopping by and checking this out. Anyone who discovered this on their own because you've just been tuning the live streams, also thank you for coming by. I'm gonna keep doing these pretty much any day that I don't have any day that I do not have a gig or I'm not traveling for some kind of work or something, I'll be doing this. So this is the plan, 5 days a week if I can keep it up. But I really like doing these, really like hanging out with you guys. So tomorrow I am on set all day, so I won't be streaming at all. And oh, what belt thing? Oh, let me show you on Keith. I'll tell you guys more about the streaming in a second. I'll show you the belt thing. I'm not going to go anywhere first. I have that right here. I think it's actually made by Tilta, if I'm not mistaken. Here in my mystical pouch of secrets. Which I'm totally super elegantly tangling. Trying to open it. Here we go. Okay, so this guy, this thing is a lifesaver for long days on set with the Ronin, and it is in fact Tilta brand. So just so you know. So this guy has a back pad that gets pressure off and puts it off on your lower back. It has this nifty little NATO looking thing. So you can attach this right here and get the weight of the camera up onto like your midsection and onto your hips. And then it even has these like shoulder strap madoos. I'm going for the wide camera here. It even has like shoulder strap madoos here that let you like get the weight also up onto your shoulders. But I guess just so you can see real quick here, this will attach around my waist, assuming I haven't gained any weight since last time I wore this. Cool. So it attaches to around your waist like so, gets the weight down onto your hips. And then on a long day of operating, when you want to get the weight off of everything else, you can just rest it in this little ball joint thing here. So this kind of just gives you a place to kind of just like rest the camera, not on your arms and back in between shooting, or if you really wanted to, you can kind of like operate from here and actually have it attached while you're doing stuff. So this is like kind of an under support version of what would have been kind of like a, you know, bigger shoulder rig thing for like the OG Ronins. So this does definitely help a lot on long days, especially if you don't have somewhere good to like set the thing down and pick it back up. If you are like running and gunning all day and there are no surfaces and no like home base to put your stuff down, this is an absolute game changer of a thing. And I think it's like $100 or something. It's not crazy in terms of like what these accessories could cost. So highly recommend. I'll put that also in the little underneath the video description section, links and stuff. So anyway, but yeah, I'll be picking this back up on I believe, Wednesday. I haven't yet picked what my topic will be. I might just be back at the desk working in Resolve and available to come hang out with, for anyone who wants to pop in. And then if you guys have anything in particular you want to know about in the comments, let me know. I will be scheduling this exact same kind of very long form. I know this was like a 4-hour stream at this point, but I really enjoy being able to do super long deep dives and stuff. I will be doing one in this very room at this setup for the Pixis body as well. So I'll send out a link to everybody, let everybody know that there's a full Pixis deep dive going as well. I'll even balance the Pixis on here for you guys because more autofocus, why not? If you have autofocus, throw it on gimbal. So we will be doing that as well at some point. If not this week, that will be a next week thing. But either way, definitely tune in. Oh no, I'm Keith. Yeah, I need to get on this stat. I broke my body for years. Honestly, that was also one of my first. Oh yeah, I need to. Yes, I did. I saw your email on Keith. I will be actually digging in and giving those a proper view soon. Thank you for sending those over. I'm excited to actually look at all of your work in particular because I feel like we think very much the same way in terms of our interests, and I'm curious what kind of stuff you're shooting. So I did get your links. I will follow up with you directly soon. Just so everyone knows, I do have like a newsletter thing. I'll also put that link somewhere as well, so you guys can check it out. And when I send out the newsletter, it's just me, so you can reply to it, and I will get that. So until I'm like some bougie million follower guy, you can still contact me directly, either on the Strategic Filmmaking website. That is a little mumbled there. The strategicfilmmaking.com website, or if you're on my newsletter already, you can just reply to it. I'll just be like, what's up? So all of those notes, I think I'm going to go ahead and organize this space again and get back to editing up my my official launch video for the exposure tool that I mentioned. That right now channel members have early access to the free ETTR LUT pack that I'm building. I know it's like when you hear a LUT pack, you're like, oh, a LUT pack, but it's like I said, I've been doing this for a long time, been shooting Blackmagic forever. I know the exposure and the color science. I know how to get really clean footage out of these. So I am making a really killer pack that starts with basically letting you guys just keep the set it and forget it native ISO and still expose super clean, noise-free images all the time. So definitely something to keep an eye out for. Right now, there is a sneak peek that's at the end of my May update for the PDAF firmware autofocus thing. There's also technically a sneak peek I did for Keith and everybody else who was watching on one of my live streams. But if you want to save yourself digging through hours of content, want to watch a 3-minute video, check out my my PDAF update video that I actually launched this morning, about 4 hours ago. So with all that being said, I'm going to hop off of here, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And like I said, let me know if you guys want to see anything particular in the future. I love doing these demos, and this is not a sponsored stream. This is just me sharing